been a bit since we've talked. It's been since like Blading Cup, I guess, last
Yeah.
year.
Things are going pretty well.
It's
Yes.
it was
Busy.
yeah, I was gonna say it's been a busy month for you.
Yeah. It's been a busy year. Gosh, doing a lot of, testing of the small frame and or medium chassis, is what we're calling it,
Hmm.
and the OI3X as well. And so just, doing that, going through some iterations, it just takes a lot of time, but it's
That's
fun.
obviously, yeah, it is. It's fun. I don't think anybody's doing this because we are supporting ourselves doing it. Otherwise, the amount of stress would be just
Oof.
insurmountable.
Sure.
Um, but it's good. I mean, I always think back to the Walt Disney quote where he makes movies to make more movies, and
Yep.
it's like, yep, like we just want to keep. Speaking, I'm sure I can speak for you, but we just want to keep making cool stuff.
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
if I can keep selling stuff and keep reinvesting things to make more stuff, like I'm I'm doing pretty good.
Yeah. It's all I can ask for.
Yeah, seriously. So how was Blading Cup for you? We had
Um,
Steve on last week, and he said that it was a pretty good event. How was it compared to last year for you?
it was a lot shadier, meaning we had more shade for our tents, which was great. So it was a lot more comfortable. And then where we had, having a booth there,
Mm,
the last couple of years, kind of haven't been able to see the course that well.
yeah.
But this year, since it was on the other street, and I guess there was plenty enough room for people to walk by, we sort of had all the booths set up right next to the course where you could easily see it. And we
Oh,
were
that's
kind of up on the
perfect.
curb, so it was a little elevated, and that was great to be able to actually watch all the people skating too.
Yeah, there were. If I remember correctly, last time there were a few downtimes, but there were downtimes, and those downtimes you're just kind of like, all right, well, I'm just gonna hang out here and
Yeah.
stare off into the distance.
Yeah.
So it must be nice
I
to
wandered
actually
around a
have.
bit.
Oh, did you?
Just a little bit, not as much as usual. And I mean, I guess it's been 4 years of having a booth there.
Hmm.
The previous 3 or 4 years before that, I would bring my camera and just walk around all day taking photos, and I love doing that too. That was really fun.
I
So
had thought that
kind of missed that.
I thought that last year was your first year. I didn't know that you'd been there years previous.
Yeah, so it was right before I think I did pre-orders in 2016 because I
Hmm.
had some of the final tool samples of the original frame at Blading Cup on display. So
Oh
that was 2016. Yeah,
man, I didn't know that you went that far back.
I didn't either. It's gone by so fast.
So let's see. So I got back into it in summer of 2000. Was it must have been 2016 then?
Yeah, I think so.
So you okay? So you had your samples at Blading Cup 2015.
No,
No,
2006.
2016.
2006.
Okay. So when I came back, were they just starting pre-orders? Is that when they started?
Yeah, I had just started pre-orders
Oh, okay.
just after Blading Cup 2016. Yeah.
Got it. Wow.
So I was trying to have them ready for Blading Cup 2016, and then again this year to have the medium chassis ready for then. And I
Sure.
planned a lot of extra time this time, but it always takes more time.
Yeah, I mean, there's always, and I think that's one of the things that we appreciate about you and other people who sweat the details. It always takes longer because you know that they're finding little things that could be improved or like I don't know. I always like to QA everything before they go into final production, and
Absolutely.
going
Yeah.
in and looking at things and just getting a sample off the line and making sure that it's the right way. I mean, some products I can't do that obviously, but like with when we make the frames, our productions in China, I always have a set sent over FedEx just for marketing, but also for color testing because
Yep.
you can we've made some horrible color choices in the past, and colors are really hard. Like if you look at blues, if you look at reds, if you look at like tans, like you could go way off course with
Yeah.
a color pretty quick.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I made the sunflower color, which was a custom color match color, and I spent a lot of time
Mm.
getting it dialed in with some samples and everything. And for this medium chassis, we're switching material to an equivalent material that costs like a little bit less because they raised the price on other material.
Uh-huh.
But the color, the yellow color, just comes out terrible now. It's absolutely terrible. So,
Is that the sample, the yellow that we're seeing the pictures of?
no, that's the natural color.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the other one is just instead of like this, kind of bright, vibrant yellow, it looks like a dingy mustard.
Oh.
So, and then I have a lot of that color left over. So,
Oh man.
we'll see what
Like
I can do.
of that, like of the injection pellets, or you have a lot
Right.
of those frames? Okay.
Of the concentrate, and a decent amount of the frames. I still have some of those around in the good yellow. So at least there's
Okay.
that.
It might match those. What are those? Those Kirill shifts. Is it that color?
It's almost that color, but I did see some in person, and it doesn't quite match.
Oh, well.
Okay.
And that's the other thing about colors. I mean, if you're a brand and you make a whole color scheme, it's still hard to match. If you like tried to match color to another brand and you guys said, "Oh yeah, this is the same color," and then once you put the objects together, they look a little different.
Absolutely.
Yeah, there was like a very short period of time where JC Rowe was still skating on a regular basis, and he was skating for Create, and they had their first red that came out that was kind of like a dull red almost, and then they had their other red that dropped, and that seemed to match every red that was in the market at that point in time.
Yeah. Yep.
I'm sure now, like if you had that same frame with like the red soles that are available for Colts now, it wouldn't match. But
and it can
change
change.
So
Even one batch of, like if I say I want make one batch of yellow, and then make another batch of yellow, same material, same coloring, it will be slightly different anyway. It just
Totally.
Humidity is 10% off or something. It just changes.
And I made my yellow frames with the same material for the juice blocks, and the color is slightly different.
Yeah.
And that is the exact same run, the exact same place, the exact same everything. But you just can't. I mean, color is hard.
Yeah.
Black is easy because you could just throw all the pigment in, and white is easy because you could just throw all the pigment in. But as soon as you get into any shade of anything, it's like, well, here's what I got.
That's crazy. I'm very excited for the future of the new Wish frames and seeing what colors you're going to come out with beyond just the naturals. Because I do think that's a good look too, though. Like that natural color, that looks good.
Yeah, it looks pretty good. And I mean, I wasn't necessarily planning to make it, but a lot of the feedback I've been getting is like, I like that. I want to use that. So we'll make some.
Yeah.
Nice.
Especially, I would imagine that your minimums are a lot smaller with a natural. And that might just be a guess, but if you don't have to bring in any pigment, maybe you can just do a limited run of, I don't know, whatever quantity so that people who want them can have them.
Well, so here where I get the frames made, I have it, I mean, and I don't know if it's an arrangement I couldn't get somewhere else, but it's basically like I have a minimum. So if I want to make 1,000 parts, 500 pairs, they charge me for 1,000. And then I can say I want 200 to be natural, 200 to be black, 200 to be red.
Sense.
And
That's
they just
pretty
charge
awesome.
me for the cost to change the color in the machine because it takes them some time.
Sure.
But I personally own all those extra colors.
Got it.
So I have like 30 pounds of red colorant that will make, I don't know, 3,000 red frames or more. So
Did you say
never
30,000 frames?
No, like 3,000.
Oh, I was like, my God.
Because, there's minimums on the color concentrate. You have to buy 25 pounds a minimum, and you only need like 5% ratio. So you don't need that many pounds to make a whole batch of red. And so I have a lot left over.
Yeah.
So if adding a higher percentage of the colorant, would that make a different color altogether, or would that make a richer version of that color?
It'll make it richer up to a point, like more saturated.
Okay.
But then there's a point where it just drops off and it doesn't make it any more saturated. And then it starts to sort of disrupt the bond of the material with itself. And makes it more brittle at some point. So.
Okay, that makes sense.
And that's what you want to avoid, of course.
Yes. Absolutely. So that's what I did actually with this yellow, because I have all this color, and I'm like, well, you give me samples of this material, I want, 3%, 4%, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Mm-hmm.
And 10 is about the highest you want to go. And once it went past 4%, the color didn't improve. And so it was like, all right, it's just dirty mustard.
Yeah, that's a tough
dirty
one.
Mustard. That sounds like a punk rock band.
It does sound like a punk rock
Next
band.
on stage, we're battling the band. Dirty Mustard.
Well, I think it's awesome. So we obviously wanted to get you on just to talk because we're huge fans of the Wish frame, and it's the medium frame or medium chassis has been something that's been rumored for probably since the first frames hit.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
And we would love to hear the story, and just give you a chance. Usually when we bring people on, we talk about news and stuff like that. Thankfully, it's been a fairly slow week. There's been some stuff going on, but not much. I mean, it hasn't been crazy like the Blading Cup week when all the hardware was dropping and everything. I think we covered that pretty well with Steve, thankfully.
Yeah, there was a lot of stuff going on.
It was, I mean, and I could imagine you showing up with a sample like, oh, well, everyone else is dropping their stuff. I guess I'll drop mine, right?
That's kind of what it was, because I was, really just waiting to show people until I got the tooling here for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And that was supposed to happen like beginning of October originally. But I had, I had to quality control it, and it's like there was a couple things they needed to improve on the tooling to get the part the way I wanted it. So that delayed it.
Of course.
But then I had these samples with me there, and I'm like, all right, I guess I'll show them. And part of it is, there's people from all over the world there, and they can stop by and have a chance to actually see them in person.
Mm-hmm.
And, I think that was really good to do. So
I think it's also...
a little superstitious.
Go ahead. Yeah.
I was a little superstitious about it.
How so superstitious?
Just like showing these off, the tooling's not here. I don't know, like pirates hijack the boat that it's coming on or something,
Oh, yes.
Somehow. So, but tooling actually got in yesterday, and I brought my jig fixtures back over to the plant, so things are looking very good.
Awesome. So when did you start designing it? Like, when did you know that you wanted a medium frame?
Let's see, probably sometime like mid 2018.
Okay.
So that's really a year and a quarter after I finally got the first ones out, I guess.
Sure. And I'm assuming that you made the first frame, and I totally speculated on this the last podcast, but that you made the first frames for you, and you were like, hey, if other people like these, that would be awesome, but I want to make sure that they're perfect for me.
Yeah. I wanted to make them versatile, so they, even could be used on small feet, and that kind of goes along with, the rocker, and you can put different wheel combinations that are a little bit smaller. But yeah, they were really sized, kind of right around the size of my foot, and just, I guess if I was just thinking like, if you're just making a chassis just perfect for someone to skate, it would really be about the size of the length of their foot would be the wheelbase. The two contact points. That kind of would make the most sense. That's kind of how shoes are really designed, right? Because they just wrap right around your foot. So yeah, that one was just, more about what I felt good for skating, and then also allowing me to grind and everything. And, I don't get that low on tricks, so it had to be something that I could be able to do royales and topsides on. And so that's kind of where the first one came from. And then this one was just, so many people are asking about it. So many people like it, but they really have much smaller feet. So how could I do something to make it more applicable to a smaller size boot? So, started thinking about what, even back then, kind of, more just thinking about what wheel sizes would I use, what wheels are available, what are out there, what do I think is coming down the line? And then sort of like what different combinations would make sense. And then probably sat down again, like around January, and really started trying to design something that was new. And it kind of predicated on the original version. So I didn't have to necessarily start completely from scratch, which is good. A lot of the same ideas and all the things I spent, like hundreds of hours just going over these tiny little details. I didn't have to necessarily do all that again. It was kind of already there, and I had already thought through that whole process. So then it's kind of a matter of like arranging the wheels and figuring out, how far of a split do we want to get? how tall in height should it be or not be. I don't know, just kind of went from there. And then I feel like, I don't know, a couple days a week, 3 or 4 hours at a time, sit down and just go through the design, all the way until I finally say, okay, let's make the tooling. And I think that was like in August.
Mm-hmm. So you started real design earlier this year, January of this year.
Yeah. Yep.
That's great. That's a really quick ramp. And were you 3D printing samples throughout the design process, or was it all in digital?
So primarily it's CAD, and then I get to a point where I say, okay, I think this is the final design.
Yeah.
And then I make one, and like almost immediately after I send the files to be made, I'm like, oh, I'm going to change this.
Of course.
So I already start kind of manipulating it, and then I get them and measure them and fit all the wheels in, test skate them, give them to some of the riders to test as well.
Mm-hmm.
And then practically, just like maybe a couple of weeks later, I've already had those revisions made, and then I can make another sample.
Awesome.
And luckily I found a place, kind of the place that makes these. They originated this process of 3D printing. So they're a lot less expensive than when I did it in 2016. But they're still very expensive.
Yeah. Yeah, because you're getting them in a material that you can actually skate. Like if you were just using a low quality, like filament or whatever
PLA
it's
film.
called. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
your tolerance probably wouldn't be as close. Like it would be a cool like concept that you could hold in your hands and say, "Look, I made this," but it wouldn't be worth the money if you were actually trying to test and figure out the wheel spacing and the ride and stuff like that.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. And that's just such a huge benefit. I mean, you're going to spend all this money on tooling.
Mm-hmm.
You can actually go out and really test it's almost like a final product.
Mm-hmm.
It's very, very similar. It doesn't slide as well because it's just kind of gritty.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little bit stiffer, but it's much more brittle, obviously, because it's 3D printed.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, you can get out there and you can skate it. I mean, if you sort of, I know people have talked about the future is you can just 3D print frames.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully we get to a point where they are robust, but for these, I mean, the only person that was able to skate them for a really long time was Miguel, because he's like a magician. The first time he must have skated them for like 6 months and put them through like super, super good testing.
Mm-hmm.
But with these ones, if they don't print it in the right orientation of the way they print them, that also is an issue. So the first sets that I got weren't printed in the right orientation, so I was only just able to session them, maybe like 5 or 6 times, and then they broke. And that was kind of disappointing.
Yeah.
So meaning like they held it horizontally as opposed to from the UFS mounts up or something like that? Am I thinking of that the right way?
Right. So if you picture like a phone book, and if you just glued all the pages together, if you skated it, like if you put pressure on the page in the middle, perpendicular to the pages, it would hold up pretty well. But if you put it up vertically and push parallel to the pages are just going to sort of push each other away, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's the different orientation.
Okay.
And it has a huge effect, huge effect.
Yeah, so you'd effectively be pulling the layers apart if it's oriented the wrong way.
Right, exactly. Yep.
Gotcha. Okay, now I feel smart.
So I was skating them and just jammed my front wheel into the side of a ledge on accident, and it broke part of the frame off.
Oh my God.
And then you kind of like, well, did I not design it strong enough? Like, well, it's thicker than the last one, so
right,
it should be okay. So yeah, it came down just to the orientation of the printing. So the final pair that we got printed the right way. That one's still in good shape and holding up.
Awesome.
So there was a rumor that I had heard, like when they started filming the promo video for what year is it this year? So what was that in like February or so, March time? And Andy Lederman supposedly had a pair of 3D printed small or the medium chassis. Is that right?
Yeah.
Did he have? Okay.
Yep.
That guy, that dude is such a wizard. Like, it's unbelievable. Why would anyone give him stuff to test that's not injected? Like, he destroys everything, including his own butt.
Yeah.
He destroyed his ass at what year is it? 2018.
No, yeah, he's really good, and he skates hard, and puts his body through a major workout every time.
Yeah. And he's a really nice guy. Shout out to Andy if you hear this.
Yeah, thanks for testing these, Andy. And so they held up fine for him, except for, I tell the guys, if you're going to skate them, like really just skate parks with coping, with metal edges, because you can skate like a really nice, well broken in ledge that's waxed up, but the sidewalls wear down faster, the 3D printed stuff. So everything held up, and he skated some ledges and sent me some videos. And then when he sent them back to me, they were actually cracked in half.
Oh, wow.
And he said, "Oh, yeah, when I was at Woodward, like the last thing I did was like a Misty Flip to cess slide, and cracked." I'm like, well, okay.
Okay.
So fair enough.
Wait a minute. I filmed that.
Did you?
If it was, which was that last year or was that this year?
That was this year.
Okay, I didn't film that one then.
Yeah, that was this
but I did film him doing that last year.
Yeah, this year at what years he went back and placed it.
Yeah.
Yeah, he landed it in the dark last year too.
Of course.
Like that guy is an animal and a half. I don't know how he does what he does.
And
crazy.
Presumably skated all day too if it's dark. I mean, I don't have that stamina.
He was up at like 7, just like, I'm skating everything.
That's pretty funny.
That guy's nuts. Like I wish I had his bulldoggedness.
Yep, that's how you get that good. It's that drive,
Yeah, for sure.
So you had so we're talking summer, and you've got your 3D printed frames, and you're like, yep, let's do it. What goes through your mind then? Like, are you like, how far in advance? Because I haven't done a tooling like that in a long time. And it was back in like funny money days, right? Where we had money to make toolings for things that we didn't even know we were going to make. Like we made those juice fins for rollerblade TRS skate, or what were they? The Daytonas that were like, a handful of people. You had to take an X-Acto knife to your skates, and like we weren't expecting anybody to be able to do that. Like, were you, especially for a frame that you didn't skate yourself, like, do you prefer the medium frame over the large frame? Or
no, I skated these also. Yeah.
Okay.
I skated these also as part of testing to make sure everything feels good. And I would have to say it's they're really similar, which was good. I mean, that's what I was kind of going for. The 269 wheelbase is the one that I've been riding, and it feels, you can tell the wheelbase is shorter, but the skating feels really similar. And then the grinding is closer to your foot, so it's nice. And I kind of go back and forth to like make sure, like, am I just making this up? Does it really feel different or not? And so that's kind of part of it. And I would have to say, I don't know. I think both of them feel really good.
Very interesting. And so this is a flat. I forgot about that. So this is flat, like designed to skate flat, versus the large ones, which are designed with a built-in half-mil rocker.
Right. And that's, part of that is just like what the basis of design wheel combos are.
Right.
But yeah, this one I wanted to skate flat because, and part of that is that the middle wheels are so much closer together than the first one, and then the wheelbase is significantly shorter. So you don't really need that rocker, in order to get that feeling of being able to turn as well.
Got it.
And just as part of that, I decided that this one I would make oriented around being flat. It also kind of has to do with wheel profiles that are available. For a 65 millimeter wheel, I think really there's only one profile available. Right?
Yeah, and it's a fairly wide profile as well. Yeah. So it is a 65 and 58. Is that correct?
Right.
Yeah. There's a bunch of good 58s out there. I mean, there's everything's available, right?
Yes.
There's flat 58s. There's rounded 58s. There's pointy 58s. Is there a bullet 58? It's a bullet 59.
Yeah, there's a bullet 59.
And I think Conjured, they have bullet 57.
Bullet 57, right? Flat
Yeah.
bullet, whatever you want to call it.
Those are machine down 59 bullets.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Flat
Yeah.
bullets.
Whatever, yeah.
It's still. I love those, by the way. Those are some of the best wheels that I've had in a long time.
We need to talk about that. So,
We will.
I guess we will.
Okay.
So yeah, the 65s is the weird one. There's 64s, and I don't
Right.
know if 64 if they're all made in the same. Like that's a weird number to me. Like I remember back in the days, 65 was a size. You know, Cosmo made a 65, Senate made a 65, and who else made a? I guess Senate was the 65 that was on the Impalas. Was it the Impalas that rode a 65?
No, those were 62s.
The low. Oh, was it a 62?
Yeah.
Something wrote a 65. I don't remember what it was. But I know that Cosmo used to make a 65. That's where I remember 65. And it just seems like 65 is a really interesting size. Again, I've talked about it countless times on the show. Like, there's only a few frames out there that accommodate a 65 millimeter wheel. There's, I mean, what is there really? There's the available. There's the Adapt, right? The Adapt with a special sole plate that you need to get. So it's technically a 60, but it rises up into the sole plate. There's the mushroom blading frames, which did you see that they had a couple come back online, Ben?
I did not.
Yeah, so
like on their website they're back on?
Yeah, so there was a really brief release of maybe 3 or 4 frames. I got the story about it. They were holding them back for replacements for that initial shipment, and they were like, you know what, everything's fine. Like nothing's broken. Nobody's complained about anything.
Those frames aren't going to break.
No, no. Well, you never know. It's not like a full production, right? You know, so like it could be anomalies. Like who knows? But yeah, I mean, they had a few extras just in case, and they're like, no, let's like, why are we sitting on these? Like people want the frames. So yeah, I think they put them up and they were gone in like an hour. I mean, it was not even crazy. But yeah, that's a 65.
I have a set, and many thanks to Joey and Todd. It's awesome that they got that out. I mean, it's like. It's like, you know, not many people can make a frame. It's really cool.
It is really.
But I haven't had a chance to skate them yet because I've been so busy with this one.
I was going to say, skating different frames must be hard. And I have to force myself with the reviews to do it because I just want, I don't know, I always want to, and I'm not making frames right now, so it's nice for me, you know, not having to test a frame that I'm making. But I can imagine in your shoes, you know, you want to make sure that everything's right before you can ship. Why did you decide on 65 or 64? I mean, were there other options?
Not really, I guess. Just because, I mean, there's a gap between, you know, I don't know. Maybe there's not a gap now that I mentioned, but like between 72 and 60 millimeter, there's kind of a gap. I mean, we see it. There's some 62s. There's one 65 mold, and there's some 68s. Yeah. There's the one bullet profile 68. It's a little too pointy. Yeah. But it works. Yeah. And then USD made a team wheel with a round profile.
A 68
but
team wheel.
A 68. But it seems like it's not available anymore. I haven't been able to find them lately, but maybe there's some still at shops. I don't know. It just it was part of like keeping the ride height low. And just making everything more compact. And then it also has to do with sort of, you know, what spacing am I going to use for the middle wheels, and that dictates how close and how close I can get them to the sole plane, and how close they get to the UFS fasteners. And then what kind of distance is left if I want to recess the wheel, and then what wheel would match that with a certain rocker and everything. And so it's not like arbitrary, but it's not like completely decided that absolutely a 65 is the best to do this. It's just sort of what works out with design, and I sort of have my CAD model set up where I can, you know, just vary the different wheel sizes and see how that affects the ride height and the width of the groove and how far I can space the middle two wheels apart. This was just kind of like a comfortable combination that I thought worked for what I wanted to achieve.
I was just going to say, it sounds to me like this is rather than, and again, this is me thinking out loud, but rather than considering this a medium Wish frame, this is really like a Wish V2, where,
Yeah, almost. It's
you know
kind
what
of
I
like
mean?
an update of the design. Yeah.
Yeah, like it would be easy enough for you to just shrink down the V1, right? And have 72 mil wheels with 60s on the outside or on the inside, and just bring that in a little bit and adjust the groove to the groove that you have now. With it wouldn't be as low, right? It wouldn't be as deep into the sole plate, but it would still have a similar ride. And you could probably call that a day and say, you know what, this is the shorter frame. But now it's a lower frame as well. It's
Mhm.
a slightly adjusted groove that, to me, just visually looks like it's a little closer to the sole plate than the V1. Is that true?
Yeah, it's like the CAD model, and that's what
Mm-hmm.
I had in my advertisement.
Yeah,
It's like 4.2 millimeter closer at the center
got
of the
it.
groove,
Got
which
it.
is
Wow.
a significant amount. I
Yeah,
mean, it's not
yeah,
as
that's
close as
huge.
like a freestyle frame, but
No,
it's
no, man, I got to tell you. So we've been, so how do I put this? So we've been playing with the old core frames, and I found a box of them, and Steve had a bunch at the Blading Cup, and one of the guys on the Slack has a pair of the freestyle core frames, and he was putting them. So let me just preface this by saying that I never skated the core frames. I also never skated freestyle, and I also never saw the freestyle core frames during production. So this was a frame that I
wow.
designed, and then I was like, all right, I gotta go. Like, I was having family, concerns, and I was like, I need to take care of family. I can't be part of the company for a little bit. And Jess was like, I guess that's me, and stepped up and just handled everything. So I delivered the designs, and that's about it. So I never saw any of this stuff. Fast forward to 20 years now that I
Yeah.
was able to see that I have freestyle frames in my house, and I've never skated them. I've never skated freestyle, but Gislin, I think, is who has it on the Slack, and he is comparing these freestyle frames that I designed to the other freestyle frames out there. This groove is like you could do a stand-up royale. Like, you
Yeah.
don't even have to bend your legs.
Yeah.
Like, you could just stand straight up, and hey, you're on a front side, and then tilt yourself like 5 degrees, and you're on the sole or on the royale plate. Like, that's
Wow.
how deep this royale groove is. So for you to say that you're bringing it up 4 mil from where it was before is a huge difference. I think it's going to really help with that royale angle, which is
Yeah.
something that I'm always complaining about. Depending on the skate and depending on the frame that you're riding. Like, if you were riding a Wish frame on a rollerblade new jack, which has a very shallow royale groove. The royale groove comes really close to the foot, versus like a USD Shadow, which has this huge royale groove. Like, it comes all the way out, and it's this big sole. The angle that you have to get in order to get boot down on a royale is different,
Yeah.
and that angle with a taller frame means that with a taller frame you need a wider sole plate, which means you need a wider, like, royale groove out there. If you had a freestyle frame, though, just kind of stand up, doesn't really matter. Like a freestyle frame with a shadow, like, of course you're just gonna
Yeah.
stand up and do royale tricks, grabbed, backslides, whatever. It's good to hear. The reason I bring it up is it's good to hear that you're bringing it in a little bit. I think that the angle for the current Wish frames is fine, right? I mean, I've skated them on a few different skates, and I've never had an issue doing royales. But I feel like I've gotten better over the years at getting down low with royales, and I've
Mhm.
got that leg strength that not everybody has now for doing royales, like the squat sort of balance. I think a slightly deeper groove will make this frame even better than it is
Yeah.
currently.
It feels a lot better. And just, the first one, the groove is really, really wide.
Hmm.
It's really, This one's a little tighter, and it actually feels a lot better on coping. You know, it more matches the shape of the coping. It's not so flat with a freestyle-ish groove. It's a little bit more compact. And so, yeah, it feels a lot better. And then the other thing with this groove, I started with everything a little more rounded out, so it should feel more broken right away.
Awesome.
And then brought the sidewall part of it up a little bit higher, so that you get your own groove developed maybe just a little bit faster. And then we actually put more material on the inside of it, so you have a lot to wear through.
That's really smart.
And tried to consider that, on the tooling, it's the negative of what you see. So
right.
I tried to leave places where I could add more material in the future. It's easy; they just go and machine away the extra metal if needed. But if you try and go to take material away later, they have to weld it, and it's super expensive, especially if you get the work done in the U.S. and it's just a hassle. So tried to approach it, in that manner this time, which before I didn't really know. So this time I just had some more knowledge to go into it, which was good.
Yeah, and like I said, it seems like it's a V2 of the frame. Like it is everything that you learned from creating the first one, but on a better implementation. So the question for you, I guess, is what would you, as soon as they hit, obviously you're going to be skating the new medium frames, but this time next year, what do you think you're going to be skating? Are you going to be skating the bigger ones with the original ones, or are you going to be skating the medium ones?
I don't know.
Like, which one do you prefer?
I don't know yet which one I prefer. I mean,
it's tough.
To me, they feel really
that's like saying which of you kids is your favorite.
Yeah, which of you kids is your favorite, Cletus?
I'll probably be skating this one, but I don't know.
Well, so, I'm excited to get it. I cannot wait. I think they're going to be great.
One of my writers, I was like, hey, Rick, got the new frame sample. I'm going to send it to you, and he's like, I don't want the wheels that small. I want 72. I'm like, all right, I'll send you more of the regular one.
Yeah.
Was that Caleb?
No, that's Jeremy Dominguez. He's in France.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you see that thing that he just put? Of course you did, because you reposted it. Jesus Christ, that transfer 540.
Yeah.
Holy shit! Like that dropped my jaw. I was like, oh my god, really? Like in my head, I was just like, oh, that'd be really cool if he. Oh my god, he just did that. That was incredible. Good job, Jeremy.
Incredible.
I don't know if he listens.
He probably does. Nobody listens.
Guy definitely doesn't.
No. So go ahead.
One other thing about this for the feature is, so it's a 7 millimeter difference between the wheel sizes.
7 millimeters between. Yes. Okay.
Like 65, 58. And so with it being closer, what I was able to do is you can see on the bottom edge of the frame that it's flat. So that's really like where you connect for like a top side, right?
Good.
And that just makes it a little more stable feeling. Instead of the groove sort of sticking down a little further and you have to wear it in. This one feels a little more stable for that, and it makes cess slides a lot better too.
Awesome. Do you need recesses for your wheels?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
But it's a smaller recess you need now, right?
Right. So for 65 outer, it's like 1.25 millimeter recess.
Okay.
And you can fit up to 68. And then you need like a 3 millimeter recess, which is like the original frame.
If you were riding a 68, would you need a 60 in the middle then?
Yeah, 68, 60. Yeah.
Got it.
So that's the max. And it's 60. So the basis was 65, 58, right? And then it's like, all right, well, I want us to have the same sort of idea as the first one where you can use various wheel combos.
Of course.
So larger size diameter, lower size diameter. So max 68, and 60 is a little bit anti-rocker, like 0.5 millimeter. But essentially it's going to ride flat. And there's not that many 68s, but there's some.
Yeah.
There's a lot of 60s.
Yeah.
And although I think Famous Wheels has a 68 coming, and I'm excited to see that. That's the aluminum core hub, so it could be. And they also have a 7260, like for the original version. So aluminum core hub wheel. People can just go really fast. I don't need to go that fast.
Yeah, it's a big trade-off, right?
Right.
I feel like that's just going to shake any feelings that you might have out of your teeth
It might.
skating an aluminum core wheel.
But there's got to be so smooth. I mean, like for those big like FIS level parks.
Yeah.
True.
Any
True.
extra energy you can put into just traveling forward instead of having to push, it's a huge savings there.
Yeah, that'd probably be really good for what year is it?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Maybe I'll invest.
The problem with what year is it though that you have to skate from park to park? You'd have to take off your skates between them because my wheels just got destroyed skating down that stupid hill. Like if you had those aluminum rimmed ones, I mean they don't have a big tire on them.
Yep.
No, they really don't. You'd ruin some $40 wheels real fast.
Yeah, real quick.
I actually put on my sale post on Blade Trade Outpost for my naturals. There's some bits of grass from Big Air Hill from Woodward in the
No
Velcro.
joke. Are you going to come out next year, Cletus? Say yes.
Maybe.
Oh, it's a maybe.
Probably next year I can afford it.
Okay. Yeah, I absolutely no pressure, and everybody understands why you weren't able to make it out this year. We would love to have you. It is an amazing week, and it is
I've gone to Woodward for a day though, and I can barely make a day.
Oh no, I'm not saying that you should skate. I mean, you bring your skates and skate a little bit, but no, it's too crazy. I can't. I mean, even pacing myself. Did you see Shredpool's Woodward video yet?
The jokes, that was awesome.
Yes.
I just watched a little bit of it.
Yeah, it's a long video. I mean, it's really the whole day, the whole weekend for him. Start from getting into the van, driving.
The intro's great.
Well, it's Shredpool.
That guy's awesome.
What other questions do I have? So we do have a few questions actually from our Patreon. So we knew that you were going to be on, and I wanted to see if anybody had any questions that they could ask you, because I feel like, so you were on the True Spin podcast about 2 years ago, in a bit maybe, and I think that covered your background and everything about the frame. So I don't want to redo things that you and Steve already talked about. But there were a few questions that the people on the Patreon asked that I wanted to ask you if you're ready for it.
Yeah.
Okay. So first question, I'm curious about the science and testing behind wish frames. Does the 72 really increase the speed of the frame, or is it limited by the smaller wheel size?
So I would have to say there was a science and testing behind the choice of the wheel size necessarily. I do. I mean, just from but so there was testing, I guess, but there wasn't necessarily like a science behind it. Generally, you're not skating that fast where any wheel size is going to be limiting factor, really. But more of what it is the ability of the wheel to overcome an obstacle in front of it, right? So if there's like a bunch of bumps or a crack, a 72 is going to kind of float over it a lot easier than a 60 millimeter.
Very true.
Right. And so that's kind of where you get that extra cruise effect as well, is like you build up more internal momentum and rotational inertia stored in the 72, and it just kind of helps you keep cruising. But obviously there's time that it takes to put that energy into it. So if you had 72 millimeter wheel, it takes you longer to get up to that speed. And that sort of thing becomes really apparent when you use like 100 millimeter wheels and you want to get moving from a start. So I guess the question really is, do 60 millimeter wheels slow you down if you have them on the inside and 72 on the outside? And I would say they don't, that you're going to be able to get more speed with a 72. And then especially when you're on like a skate park with ramps, if you're getting into the transition on the quarter pipe, mostly just the outer wheels are touching, just the 72s, right? Because the ramp is sort of underneath and you're just touching 2 points on that curve. So you can get, the wheelbase effectively becomes longer at that point than it was, and you can get a better push with more stability. So that's kind of another factor. But scientifically speaking, we didn't do any like rotational inertia testing of various wheels or like put them in a wind tunnel, so to speak.
Nice.
Better. Um, it was, that design was 7260 because those were really the wheels I knew would be available. I was actually looking at, making it like a 7060, which would have been maybe just a more round number, maybe could have been a little more compact at first. But there weren't any 70 millimeter wheels at the time. And I think Caltech has a 70 now, and that's the only 70 millimeter wheel that's ever been made, maybe.
Wow, they have a 70?
I don't know. Yeah.
That's a
Yeah,
weird
they do.
size.
Yeah.
Huh.
It was made specifically for their flat V2 frame.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Who knows, maybe Connor decided, hey, you know what? I'm going to shell out the money for a new mold because that's the way that I see my frame being used, and that's what he decided to do. Like, possibly. I'm sure there's crazier things he's thought of.
That makes sense. Cool. I think that was a great answer.
So, but I guess with more on the scientific part, that was more in like material selection, for sure. And you were part of the pre-orders, and I mean, I send an email once a week just saying we're testing this material, we're testing that material. This happened, that happened, it's delayed. So and that clearly comes down to when you're selecting material, you have a data sheet and the properties, and you say, what properties do I really need to meet, what criteria. And then obviously, once you decide what that criteria is, you get a range of materials, use a few of them. And then for me, I mean, I'm not taking them to an Instron machine and pulling them apart to make sure that they exactly meet the specification on the data sheet. We take them out and test them. And if you can just bash them and wear them all the way down and they're not going to break, that material is good. And then it comes down to, well, which one of these slides better? Part of it is also which one's more available. What's the pricing? So there's like sort of this balance, obviously, between the cost and the sort of the material science behind what you're going to choose. And that was more of where the focus was on the development of the first frame than science behind the wheel sizes. Yes.
Interesting. And I'm assuming that the sizes was based around you wanting to get away from the UFS bolts. So it was like, I know that I need a big wheel and a small wheel. What are my combinations?
Yeah, exactly.
Got it.
And kind of like also, what would I consider as, if I want to put the 60 right underneath the UFS bolt, how long is it going to get? I mean, it's going to get even longer, like, there was a range from like 275 millimeter to 285 millimeter that I had started looking on the original one. And then it's sort of like the other thing is sort of, well, what do I want to make the design basis, smaller wheel size? I mean, I just didn't want to, I didn't want to skate something that's a 55 millimeter wheel at the time. It's just, for me, it was sort of too small, and that's kind of what I was moving away from in the design, that it's incorporates more of a skating aspect than just grinding as well.
Got it.
It does do that well. I sent Law a video of me skating those down the block with my daughter on her scooter not long ago.
It's a fun frame for skating. Yeah. Flat 55 is a great ramp up, but you really, at least I feel as though I hit top speed really quickly. And you can look at the old ASA comp videos from, the 90s, and you're seeing Randy skate super fast, but like skate just to try to maintain that speed. And you clearly don't need to do that with, 60s, 60, 72s or whatever. It's there's much more coasting, I guess, involved with the bigger speed. Yeah. I'm not a huge fan of 55s. I feel like I have rose-colored glasses of my old days skating the mini flies.
So one of the combinations you can use is a 6255 on the new medium chassis as well. So if people who like to skate those, much smaller wheels, you can do 6255.
That's not a bad combo.
I think Red Eye Wheels has those two wheels available. So, a set of the same company's wheels and put them on there too.
Very cool. Future Law here. After recording the podcast, we realized we never discussed the multiple lengths for the medium frame.
What?
We didn't talk about the long and the short medium frame.
Oh, We could interject that.
No. We'll just leave it.
You guys talk about it next time.
Yeah,
even
we'll
though
talk
it's not
about it
around.
again. We'll
Yeah.
talk about
And if you got any questions for me, I can
So
describe more about
it's
it.
10 mil. 10 mil different?
12 millimeter.
12
Oh
millimeter.
yeah, no, we should talk about it because here's an interesting thing. I'll let you know. You
Yeah.
can tell people this later.
Yeah.
So the original one is 281, and then the new one is 269 and 257. So
Okay.
it's a 12 millimeter difference.
12.
Yeah. And these are all prime numbers.
Of
So-
course,
You
of
did that
course
on
they
purpose,
are.
didn't you?
Yeah. Yeah.
Of course they are. Like nobody's gonna
That's-
know that.
They're just, I don't know, something for myself. And
This is why we love you, Cletus.
Wow, that's amazing. So was that something that you decided, like, all right, these are good lengths, oh my god, they're prime numbers? Or was it just like, yeah, I'm going to make this happen and it's going to be prime numbers, god help me?
No, it was like, it was like, well, 270 is kind of good number. It's standard. 255 usually. And then it sort of just got driven by what the geometry was to fit a 58 and a 68.
Sure.
And that pushed it out a little bit to 257. And then I was like, oh, this is cool prime number. Oh, 269 is a prime number. Oh, these are all 12 millimeters different.
Perfect.
It's good. I mean, yeah.
Symmetry.
Yeah. And then part of it is just the range of like, well, 255 to 260, like a size 8 boot is right in that range.
Right.
And then like a size 9 boot is right in the range of like 269, I think, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
And so really, you can put these on like any UFS boot, but like a 6'7" is going to be a little long, so it's going to be more similar to the first one for my foot. And then like a 8'9" is like probably the best fit, traditional fit for the 257 millimeter.
Okay.
And then like a 9'10" is good for 269. And then people that have like 11'12" can use the first one.
Yeah. But I'm sure. I don't think that's going to be you've got a big foot. I mean, 270 has always been standard for big-feeted people.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're at a size 13 or whatever, where you're on the bigger shell break, I mean, yeah, you're going to have to use the other Wish anti-rocker or whatever, or get one of the K2 unnatural frames or something like that.
And I really anticipate actually the smallest wheelbase will probably sell the most because it's going to cover the widest foot range. And people that have a size 10 and want a traditional length are going to use that, so it doesn't stick out as far from the boot or at all.
That probably makes
I
sense.
see that happening, but see what happens.
It's it's not a separate mold. It's a mod. It's a insert in the mold.
Yeah, so just like, but we don't have any rockerable spacers. It's just
Right.
the same thing. They just take the insert, twist it,
Yeah.
put it in. Makes the other wheelbase.
Yeah, that makes sense.
You know what other frame is out there that has a really great top speed option?
Which one?
The OY3X.
It's not quite out there yet, though.
Yeah. So what's the story with that? We have a few more questions, but we'll get to them.
For sure.
What's the story with the OI3X? Because that really hit me out of nowhere. I remember you hit me up and said that the hundreds were testing really well, and I was like, testing really well? What the hell are you testing? Like, what Wish frame is going to fit hundreds? Like. And then, obviously, I don't know if you sent me a picture or if I saw a picture on the Instagram. I was like, oh, he's doing something else. Like, that makes more sense. Where did that idea come from?
So that actually came from, I was working with Joey Barbera, and he was they had reverse skates at the time, which isn't anymore. And he was a big help in me getting the first chassis going. Like, he introduced me to a lot of people in plastics industry and good places to get tooling and make parts and everything. It was just super incredibly helpful. And so I was helping with a few things with reverse, and part of that was he wanted to make a big 3-wheel frame. So the OY3X was originally designed as a 125/110 frame. And that was going to be the reverse sports big wheel frame, basically. So I think that must have been 2017, I think is when I started designing that, after I had gotten the first pre-orders out for the first chassis. And designed that actually pretty fast, maybe in a matter of 3 to 4 weeks, something like that.
Wow.
And then I just, I said, here's the design. We got to make some samples. And so we kept trying to get some samples made, and making them in the US was just way too expensive at the time for some reason. We tried to, get them through their Chinese supplier. I guess they were having some difficulties with that. And then it just maybe even a few months later, like 6 months later, then reverse was no more. And I was kind of like, well, I mean, we've got this design, right? They never actually paid me for the design, so it's still mine. And so I just started looking at it again and said, I'm going to sort of redesign this and just see, maybe I can make a Wish 3-wheel frame. And that's kind of from there came up with the idea, like, all right, I'm going to, we're going to keep the idea that it's a 2 different wheel sizes with unique wheelbases, but 125 is just, it's really large. So I knocked that down to, 110, 100. And then the geometry fits in there really well with those wheel combinations and then the different wheelbase sizes. And then I said, okay, well, maybe we can fit a 125 if it's on a rec boot, right? And because I see that all the time, they have the rec boot sort of has the slope, so they put the middle wheel up into the part that's raised up. And so it just kind of went from there, a little iteration at a time, until I got to the point where it's like, all right, well, I'm going to make this a UFS frame first of all, because that's sort of the market that I'm in, right, with Wish is UFS frames. And then it was like, how can I, do this to adapt it? And so I was like, well, there's these other companies, I've seen them, they have these adapter blocks, but they're trying to fit a rec frame onto a UFS boot. I said, well, I'm just going to do it the other way around. I didn't know what that dimension was. I made a couple blocks of like 9, 10, and 11 millimeter width or thickness. And then, just fit them up to see which one was actually right. And so we just have these 10 millimeter risers.
That's funny.
And fit the wheels in. And then that way you can use the risers on the UFS boot as well. And you can ride 3x125. If you don't use the riser, you ride 3x110. And then if you want a shorter wheelbase, which is, I kind of enjoy the short wheelbase sometimes. You put 3x100 and it's close to the boot as a regular 100. We're not just putting 100 millimeter wheels in where you normally have a 110. And that was the whole concept behind it, even from the start, was having 2 different sets of geometry within one frame.
Very cool.
And so this year I was like, all right, I want to get this going. So I got some prototypes made. They weren't made very well. Luckily, the company that I got them made through, they were like, oh, well, what's wrong with them? So I sent them all these things, like this dimension. And, it's like, how picky am I being? It's like, this dimension's supposed to be 3.75 millimeter, and it's 3.5. Right. And this is right where it's supposed to bend if there's any bending. And the moment of inertia that, prevents it from bending is to the 4th power. So it's a huge difference in the actual moment of inertia that you get. So, okay, fine, we'll just remake them. So they made me 3 new pairs, and they came out just about perfect. So I had some extras. And then from there, sort of refined the design with actually the bosses where the wheels mount. So they're, to make sure we're not getting interference with different types of wheels and brands of wheels that go in there. And then I had those extras left over and actually was able to sell those 3 prototype pairs. So those are the only 3 that are really out there for the public. And, they were extra, so I wasn't charging, what they cost as a prototype.
Sure.
I was just trying to charging what I'd want to charge if they were available in the store. So I did have manufacturing sorted out for that. That one really would require a Kickstarter, though. And just based on my cost of each part, I wanted to see if I could find something better so that when it makes it to a shop, it's still affordable for people to buy. So that's what I'm waiting on now is that sample from a new manufacturer.
Awesome.
And in the meantime, it was like, well, I've already invested in all this tooling, so I sort of have to delay that right now. But it's there and definitely going to bring it out at some point.
Very cool. I think it was very out of left field, but it totally made
Yeah.
sense because I remember listening to that Steve podcast and you saying that the reason why you went with big wheels is because you just wanted to make a frame for skating. You know, it
Yeah.
wasn't just grinder blading. It was, I want to do everything. And skating, you know, ultimately is what we want to do. So, and you know, that's why I started Compass, is because I love just the feeling of skating, and my knees can't handle 2 days of aggressive. You know, like once a week is all that I have in me. If I push it more, I fall a lot, and my legs just, I mean, I need, you know, a few days to recover. But if I'm just skating, like if I'm skating on my trail, or if I'm, you know, doing a little urban, but not anything crazy, like, you know, just skating around town and just skating some little inclines and a few wall rides or whatever, like it is a fun ride and it feels amazing,
Yeah.
especially with 100 mil wheels. Like I think that 100 mil is just, again, this is the sweet spot where it really
It
has.
is a really sweet spot. It's
Yeah.
really, yeah, it's really good.
I don't know why. Like 110 is like the standard, but yeah, 100 for me is just it's a really good balance, and 90 never caught on. Like, have you ever skated 90 mil wheels?
I haven't.
No, me either. I mean, because there's no frames really readily available. There's the flex frame that we won't get Ben started with, and then there's the Cultic, the bat frame is 4x90, I think, but it's a slightly taller frame because it is designed for 3x110, I think, and then they, you know, made holes for 90s, so it's not ideal. I still think that the 90 could be something great, but definitely the 100 for me is like, if you're skating a 3-wheel skate, that's the way to go.
Yeah, I was gonna when I got my Wizard boot, which I think that was in 2016. Leon had them at the Forecast show, and I tried them on. I was like, well, I have to get some. And so I talked with him, and I was going to get the 90 millimeter Wizard, and he's like, no, you need to get the 100 millimeter. So, okay, all right, I'll get it. So, that was my
funny.
almost encounter doing 4x90.
Yeah,
That's funny.
Leon had me on 100 natural rockers when he came through Philly in an 8.5 Seba boot, and it was fun. Like the rocker was a lot of fun, but it was painful.
Yeah.
I did have the Rollerblade Maxims had a 4x90 option, and that's what I had because it fit in what I was able to spend at the time. And it worked really, really well. I thought it was a really great wheelbase. I think it was like a 273 or something like that. You know, plenty long for nice and stable, and still plenty fast for where I was with my skills and strengths at the time. But it was a really great wheelbase. It's something I'm a fan of. I definitely want to have that in the future too.
And so yeah, with the OY3X, it was kind of, you know, I do. Lately, I have been so busy, so I haven't gone. But they have Tuesday night skate here in downtown LA, and Friday night skate in Santa Monica. And it's a lot of fun people, and you know, it's just 20 people rec skating at night through the streets in LA. It's amazing. It's really fun. So, it was kind of, you know, I wanted to make something that's versatile, and so Caleb Smith also did a lot of testing for me with them. And basically, you know, he skates hard. He's a beast. And the idea was to make something that you could use, you know, for urban skating. You can also use it for distance skating. And it's, you know, if you're a UFS skater, basically, you usually skate a little bit harder than a speed skater or just someone who's recreational skating, you know, with tri-skates. So all the thicknesses of the whole design are intended to hold up to that type of skating as well.
Got it.
So
That's awesome.
Makes it stiff and beefy, and it feels really solid underneath your foot.
So get the medium frames out there, and then
Use
are we
the profits from those to bankroll the.
I was just going to say,
OY3X.
are we thinking by summer of next year, or is that?
Yeah, maybe sooner. I guess it depends on the quality of the samples that I get back.
Of course,
which should be here soon. But for that one, it may need to be more like a Kickstarter,
Yeah.
which is kind of essentially pre-orders. Because right for the medium chassis, I mean, I put up a lot of money to make new tooling.
Right.
So that's done. We got the tooling, and now I'll have pre-orders for the parts. For the OI3X, the parts cost a little more, but there's no tooling up front.
Mm-hmm.
So doing a pre-order is kind of, it's a little more like a Kickstarter for that one to get it going.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll kind of have to see what happens with that.
I think there's interest. I don't know how much interest. I think there's interest. Like, just based on Compass sales, it was definitely busier during the summer than it is in the winter, right?
Oh yeah.
I don't sell a ton of wheels now. It's a couple orders a week. During summer, it was like every other day there was a new order coming in, and shops are reordering and stuff. So I think if you needed to take some time, this is the time to take to figure out what to do with your big wheel setup. Like, definitely made the right call. If you had to prioritize one of your projects, the medium wish is the way to go. But I sure hope that you get this frame out. I know that I'll be ordering a pair as soon as I can. I did not get the pre-order ones. I think, again, cash flow problems for me as well. But
I should send you a pair if you want to test them out.
Well, it's raining every day here now, and I'm just like you. I have and it's going to start snowing. So I'm in basically an indoor skate park until February. Which,
all right, in the springtime.
Yeah, exactly. So come February, I'm definitely going to hit you up again. But I think it's important. When I started Compass, wanted to make a 100 mil frame, because I think 100 mil again is something that's underrepresented. I think that the Kaiser Trimax is a great frame, but it is a little high. I think the wheelbase is fine. Have you skated that Trimax?
I haven't. No.
It's not bad, especially for the price. I mean, you can do a lot with a molded frame. I think the wheelbase is good. It's like a 255 or something like that. So it's not super long, but when I'm skating big wheels, you can still see your wheels sticking out of your feet. So for me, there's like this mental, this wheelbase is fine, even though it's a lot shorter than I'm used to, but I can see the wheels, so it's fine. But it's rockerable, so you can rocker them up and down. And skating a 3-wheel frame with a slight rocker is a really interesting ride, especially for slides and stuff. Like coming in hard and doing a really quick turn. You can get some really, I don't know, it's a different style of skating. So I'm really excited to see it. I think that it will be a good selling frame. I don't know how huge. I don't know what the crossover is of UFS skaters. I would assume you'd market it to UFS skaters more than 165 skaters.
It sort of depends, and it's definitely flexible because you could fit it on both.
True.
A rec, it's 165 rec mount and UFS, and I know a lot of people that are just they don't do aggressive skating, they just rec skate as well.
Yeah,
and it's something they're also interested in. So I think it'll be good. It kind of is a platform that applies to a lot of different people, and then again, it's just something I want to get out there for people to enjoy.
Yeah.
And break even.
Yeah.
To have something out there for people, and ultimately be able to support some skaters that, and that's like one of the cool things about Caleb is like, to have him as part of the team is he is good at aggressive skating and good at big wheel skating. And not just like, he doesn't just big wheel urban skate, he skates hundreds of miles,
That's crazy.
And, it's just amazing. And it's just something that he's passionate about and loves to do. So it's cool to have someone like that, to be able to support someone like that and say, here's these frames, they're for you. Do whatever you like to do on them, and let's make sure they're fun for you to skate.
Totally agree.
So Caleb was actually one of 2 people that skated those at Athens to Atlanta, right?
Yeah.
Or he, yeah.
And I think Mike Falcone had the other pair, right?
Mm.
Yeah. So the story of how Mike got into those frames is really crazy. So Mike hit me up and just said, "Hey, I'm training for this. Like, I know that you're nerdy about this type of stuff too. What do you recommend?" And so, like, I mentioned a couple things, and he's like, "All right, cool. I'll look into that." Later that night, I saw the pre-order or the sale for your prototypes, and I was like, "Oh man, that'd be really cool." And like a couple days later, I mentioned it to Mike. I was like, "Hey, Wish has this frame," and I think he was busy. He was kind of like in one ear, out the other. And then a few days later, he sends me a text and just said, "Look what I just bought." And then he showed me that, and I was just like, "You son of a bitch." So then, like, after he got him, like, he set him up and everything, and like he showed me pictures. Beautiful tooling work on there, by the way. That was a really good looking frame.
Yeah.
And so he just goes, "So what's up with these?" I was just like, "Oh, those are prototypes for like a frame that I don't know if Cletus is even going to make." And he's just like, "Really?" Like, he had no idea they were prototypes.
Yeah.
It was pretty awesome, but he was so
funny.
excited about them. So he's definitely enjoying them, and
Awesome.
he skated them at Athens to Atlanta. So that was really cool to see.
Yeah, that was those are one of the extras that they sent me because they had to remake them, and those ones came out. I mean, just perfect. Like, they got every dimension and detail right, and the finish of the clear anodize on the silver ones is just, it feels like silk. It's so good.
Love it.
I think those are the ones that Mike got, was the silver ones, right?
Yep.
Yeah, it does look really, really good. I didn't know those were anodized. I wouldn't have known unless I tried to weld on them and couldn't have done it very well. So, but that's really the only way I can tell if something's anodized now. Like, either it's scratched or I'm trying to weld it.
Yeah.
We anodize our silver grind plates as well, just because it's better for keeping it from getting rusty and yucky. Like, if you don't anodize aluminum, at least that's what I'm told. I'm not a material specialist, but
Yeah.
Well,
the
the term is oxidized because
there you go.
Because it's a non-ferrous metal, so it won't rust.
Okay,
that's right.
That makes sense.
Yeah, it's all cloudy looking.
Our local shop is who makes the grind plates, and they told me a little bit about it, and I was like, all right, that's cool. Like, I don't know, thanks for explaining it to me. I don't understand that, but that's cool.
That's going to be a goldfish memory. I'm going to blink my eyes. I'm going to forget it.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
Thanks for taking the time to help me understand.
Because then he showed me the black ones, and I was like, ooh, that's black. I like that. All right.
Yeah, this is Rust-Oleum high tech.
Yeah, no, it's beautiful. All right, next question for you.
Okay.
So this one is, I'd be interested to know the background on Shredpool's custom frame. Also, is Shredpool an official rider? Thanks to Cletus, you are doing great stuff for blading.
Cool. Thanks. So let's see. Shredpool's frame. What we do is we just make the frames, and I told them, because normally when they make parts for big companies that are automotive companies at the plant that I use, they take they make one color, they clean out the whole machine, and then they put another color in. And I told them, why I don't want you to do that. I want you to just put in red and then dump the black in behind it, or blue or whatever it is. So we get a couple, maybe 2 or 3 in between color changes that have this gradation of different colors. And that one came out between the black and the red, and it's the only one that looks like it. And I just thought this will match Shredpool's stuff really good. And so I'll send it to him. And then I sent him the other 2 that are more red, but they had a little bit of blue coloring in them. And I switched to red. So I'm actually, and I talked to you about this some time ago, I'm finally getting a web page up for our team members. I'll put that up soon.
Too funny.
And then you can see what the status of Shredpool is in relationship to our team.
Awesome. Good announcement. Non-committal. What is what's the website? Is it Wishes?
Yeah, OYSI.
Spelled backwards.
US.com. Well, it's like Wish US for United States.
WishUS.com. Not wish.us.
Right. Wishui.com or
Perfect.
wishes.com.
Awesome.
Which just happened to also be the same 6 letters from my middle name.
Well, there you go.
It's worked out.
All right. Another question. I'd like to know what frame you were skating before you decided to go ahead and start making Wish frames. That's a good question. So what were you all about before then? Like, what other frames have you skated to make you decide Wish was the way to go?
So the first, immediately before I was like, I'm making a new frame, I was skating the Seba, the Seba CJ frame,
Oh,
right?
interesting.
The plastic one. Because I had got a pair of the SX boots.
Sure.
They came with 4x80 frame, and then I also got that as a frame too. And I was skating that anti-rocker with not like a plastic anti-rocker wheel, but like a urethane anti-rocker wheel,
Uh-huh.
which I preferred if I'm skating anti-rocker, an actual wheel.
Right.
Just before that, I was skating Cultic frames. Before that, I think, let me see. I can't remember the timeline. I have a whole box of all the frames that I'm skating. So it was Cultics. Before that, I think it was Slimlines. And then somewhere in there before that was Create Originals, which I tried to skate flat with 57 millimeter wheels when I first got them.
Oh, wow.
And I was a long time ago. I was not good enough. So that lasted one session.
Yeah.
And then before that, I had Kaiser Element frames.
Oh, nice.
Such a great frame.
For that, I think I had some ground controls, and then I had some Kaiser fluid frames. Actually, those were one of my favorite frames for years. That's all I skated was Kaiser fluid frames. And I had the same through all those anti-rocker setups. I had the same wheels that I had on my K2 Fatties back in the day. I think they were Hyper Jacks. And I just kept using them because they never wore out, and they had this like the perfect flat spot that would lock in place for my Royales. And I used those from like 1997 to like 2009 or something like that.
That's awesome.
So yeah, it was kind of this iteration of like just skating anti-rocker, like it seemed like forever. And then finally, I think it was the Kaiser Element frames would come out, and it's like, oh man, this is like what I've been waiting for. We've been talking about this since we ever started. Like, wouldn't it be cool to have two wheels way out in the side in this huge groove? So I skated those for a bit. I ended up breaking the axle. The first version of those were aluminum, and I just came off of a rail, like a soul grind 180 out, landed, the axle broke, and it bent the whole frame. I got in touch with them, and they sent me a replacement, which was great, and they sent me steel axles with replacement, and so I didn't have any problem with those.
Got it.
So I skated those for a while, and I think Create Originals was after that, and then the Slimlines came out, and I was like, oh, this is it. Like, this is definitely the flat frame, like, no question. And then there was just something about it where they were too slim in the middle, and I couldn't skate them very well flat, at least for me.
Yeah.
That was one of the worst flat grooves ever. It's way too wide.
Yeah, it's like the groove is wide enough, but it goes into the wheel where the wheel sits. And then because the sidewall doesn't stay, as thick as the ends of the sidewall in the middle it comes in, it's really good for rails on rails and stuff. But if it's on ledges, I couldn't make it work. And then I think around that time, Cultic frames they've been around for a while. I think since like 2006. But then they had a little more presence, and so I sort of noticed them, and I was like, all right, I'm going to get these. And I just, for that, I just couldn't quite get used to the groove. And I remember I was at a Duke City ditch comp, and I was trying to launch out of the ditch and royale this rail, and I just couldn't get it. And I just couldn't get it and couldn't get it. And I was like, I don't know what's going on. Like, what's happening? And so then from there, I wanted to get the Seba SXs, and then went back to anti-rocker for a minute. And as soon as I went back to anti-rocker, I was like, I feel like I can't skate,
Yeah.
I feel like I'm just stuck. I can't turn. Like, I want to skate more. And that also came from having, I got the Sebas with the 4x80 millimeter frame, and I was skating that all around Los Angeles. So it's like going from that and then putting on these anti-rocker frames. It's just like something wasn't working for me. And so I was like, all right, I'm going to do something about this. And really originally the base idea of the original Wish frame was, I don't care what people are doing. I'm making UFS 2.0, and I'm making a big split with 62 millimeter wheels. And then I got a little more realistic. I'm like, all right. I want people to be able to use this on boots that exist. So I'm going to do what I can to make what I envision inside the confines of UFS. Yes.
Sure. That is actually an amazing segue to the final question. I would have asked about the smaller frame, but that's been announced. So thank you from the smaller footed community for your hard work, and excited to finally get to try the Wish frame, which is a nice thing to say. You may also already be planning to go here, but a discussion between you two on what you think the next generation of UFS could or should be, starting from scratch or fixing the issues it creates today. So we talked about this actually last year at Blading Cup, and we had Peter over and talked a little bit about it with him as well, I think.
And we, at some point, me and you, and there were some other people, sort of had a little Facebook chat group.
I remember that got deleted out of nowhere. UFS 2, yeah. So Ben and I had our friend Mark on 2 years ago or so, and had a really nice like roundtable sort of discussion about UFS and the history of frame mounting, and UFS being the standard that we kind of came up with and have stuck with. And there's, really a lot of reasons why we've stuck with it. I personally was shocked that we did stick with it as a guy coming back to plating, assuming that, things would have changed in 20 years, but they didn't. And I would be curious, especially now that you've done more with technology, and you've created big wheel frames as well as aggressive frames. What are your thoughts on UFS 2, and is there a need for a change in the standard?
It's difficult to say if there's a need for a change in the standard. I think, and this comes from, comes from me having designed these type of frames that work around UFS and work pretty well. Mm-hmm. And I know, the advantage is if you have a different UFS mounting system, the ideal is, well, I can write all the same wheel size, and we can make a big groove, and that's really the ultimate thing.
Sure.
But it does have other effects, like if you want to make a big 3-wheel frame, well, now you start blocking the outer wheels with the 3-wheel frame, mm-hmm. or like a wizard frame. So I would say there are some benefits, but there's also going to be some drawbacks, and we wouldn't know what they are. It would be cool to see it, and to see what, I'm just interested in the process of it. Like if we did make a new mounting standard, mm-hmm. what would it be? What would it provide us? And then would we be upset about the things that it prevents us from doing that we had been used to with the previous version? So it's kind of hard to say, but I'll one thing is with this medium chassis, and the whole reason I have this Sega Master System graphic.
I was going to ask about that.
It was the idea, this just ended up costing too much, but the idea was to make a tooling that could also make a UFS 2.0 chassis. So it would have replaceable inserts in order to make both versions. And then at some time, where if I worked with a sole plate manufacturer or a boot company, mm-hmm. I'd have ready to go. And then that way we could change all the wheel, so the frame shape would be the same, but I could change all the wheel location, axle holes, and then I could change the mounting location.
Wow, that's
so
crazy.
That was going to be like a modular version of a tooling. And it was just a little bit out of reach.
Sure.
Also completely unnecessary at the
sure.
right now. So I was like, okay, we can revisit that later if it ever becomes a thing. And so I was going to call it the master chassis. So it was like, we have this, we have different wheel combinations, we have different UFS mounts.
Awesome.
And just have the ability to make all those things. So I think in terms of that, if there's some planning ahead that we could have two different versions, people would be more willing to take on that little bit of extra cost for what they had ability to make in the future. And it just takes planning ahead of time. Instead of like, I'm just going to make one part and I can't make any other parts with this tooling. You just plan ahead a little bit to be able to change tiny things and details. And that could have a segue into something different. Now, will it be any better? I mean, people would argue that an anti-rocker setup on a Solomon frame and boot is nothing's ever going to be better.
Right.
So,
yeah. It's true though. And that's the question. Like if
I have thoughts on that, but we can skip it.
well, and that's where I think your point is valid. Like we don't know what impact it will have. If there is nothing wrong with UFS for most people, and most people, by most people I mean people skating like anti-rocker, normal standard grinder blade airframes, then why go through the trouble? You know,
Yeah.
it would be a lot of work for a lot of different companies to make frames that are UFS 2. You know, you would have to move your mounting points. You'd have to redesign your frames. In some way, you'd have to redesign your frames. You'd have to redesign
Yes.
base plates. You'd have to, reconsider wheel alignment. Like, there's a lot of things that you need to think about.
UFS 2.0 retooling the industry.
Yeah, well, and to what point? I think that's
Right,
exactly
exactly.
it, right? If it's to help with flat frames so that we can skate, everybody can skate Aeons, right? Then, okay, like, that's cool. But I know a
Yeah.
lot of people who skate Aeons anti-rocker.
Right,
You don't need
exactly.
Yeah.
you don't need UFS 2.0 for that. You just need a Aeon frame that, like your, a high-low flat rocker frame, you need a frame that has the Aeon frame but just uses anti-rocker wheels. And you could use UFS for that. It's fine.
Quick question: have either of you seen the Power Slide? What used to be called the VI, which is now the V Skate.
I don't think so.
All right, it's a clamshell big wheel skate where it has like the higher end one has like a boa closure and a buckle on the cuff.
Okay.
That has an adaptable mounting system to where it'll do either a 195 frame or a 165 frame.
Mhm.
So I had an idea not long ago, Linus, and I sent you a very, very rough drawing.
Yeah, yeah.
Which looking at Cletus, your drawings that you have on your website, I'm a little ashamed of mine, but I had a ballpoint pen and a legal pad, so
That's right.
bear with me.
Mine came from a CAD file, so
Yeah.
Okay.
Slightly different.
Yeah, exactly. So I had an idea where we could make a plate that would go into a boot, and then the end user would either re-drill, the holes like we had to do with the ground control UFS adapter kit,
Mhm.
or they could route out a channel. Then, but basically what it would do is it would take whatever the distance would need to be for USB 2 point, not USB, UFS 2.0. It's cold in my garage. I did
That's
come
fine.
in here because the other room is weird, so my brain's not working. But there was essentially either two mounting points where you could choose which standard you wanted to use, or you could cut a slot and then drop in basically pins where they would slide up and down like on a rail type system, like a dovetail rail, and then that would be your mount either for UFS 2 or UFS 1, whichever frame you decided you wanted to skate that day. So I had a very small idea of it. I don't know how feasible it is,
so
and I
this
wasn't
is
going
a
to try
very
to.
good idea, but I'll tell you the bad part about it.
Okay.
Razor's already has a patent on this almost exact idea.
Yeah, which
Really?
I think is expired.
It might be, but they had a system that basically
Yeah.
would accommodate variable mounting points in the boot.
Yeah.
And man, I mean,
Was it like their old one where you had two pins that you would pop in and then you had two screws on each end?
It was
Or was it?
It was like
teeth style
yeah, it
where
was like-
you would slot them in and you could move it around. So imagine the base of the boot having teeth that were like just up and down teeth with a channel, and then there'd be a plate that had corresponding teeth that you would put on top that had a hole with a thread. So you could put that plate wherever you wanted, two plates wherever you wanted, and then screw the frame into the plates.
I think I do know what you're talking about. That was like with the old flats and stuff, right?
I don't
Yeah.
know.
Or did this never come to fruition?
I don't know. I think it was a junior skate that they used it on. I think that they had
Okay.
small frames, and then you could adapt it to use UFS. I think it's a really smart idea, but I don't know that it ever made it outside of that, and I want to say the patent expired. Still, not a bad idea.
Okay.
I think if we did a UFS 2.0, there would need to be a transition period, and there would need to be a way that you could use UFS 1, especially for boot manufacturers, UFS 1.
Which I like with, I think it's with their rec frames, but what that Peter's done with Adapt.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I mean, he basically has that 4-wing mounting system, and so you can place the wheels, really close to the boot, sort of anywhere in there with freedom to make exactly what he wants. And I guess that's the ultimate goal. And that's the other thing. I mean, if you look at Fatties, which I think I sent you, maybe we'll talk about later.
Yeah.
But the Blade Tech post that someone, I don't know if they cut the frame and the sole off of a Fatty and put it on a them boot.
Yeah. Did you see this? Like? Did you see this, Ben? I'll send it to you on the Facebook.
No, I did see it. That's actually it's an Ultra Wheels frame.
Is it? Okay. Oh yeah. No. Well, the H-Buck looks like. It might be.
Why?
When I saw that, it's kind of like that's the idea is you want a whole sole frame, but then here's another thing. Like if you don't have 2 UFS bolts interfering, what's going to tell you where to put the wheels? I mean, you have so much freedom.
Right.
How, you know what I mean? Like, is it too much freedom for people to decide what to do? Or we have just sort of any kind of variable wheel lengths and widths and grooves, which could also be awesome, but it's hard. It would be really hard to choose what you like or what you should make, I guess.
It's nice to have a little bit of a constraint that you can work around, that's for sure. Like the wheels should be straight in a line. And, I mean, the frame should be 41 mil wide at the mounting area or whatever they should be. That is one of the bones that I have to pick with the rest of the industry. I get so many people saying, hey, your frames don't fit on X. And I'm like, dude, like, we came up with a standard like 20 years ago. How can they not fit on the skates? Oh, well, because this sole plate is too tight. And I'm like, well, how are they too tight? Like, didn't they? I mean, it's shame on me, I guess. I don't know that I was in charge of UFS and left.
No,
but
I think it's just, probably at the time when they made it, there's not that good a documentation. You really have to search to figure out what all the specs are.
Yep, you do. And
that's kind of.
I remember Rachel at K2 actually was hunting around trying to find the UFS specs, and I had a brief conversation with her maybe last year, and I sent her the original documents that I had, which was just this random old email that was in my my old whatever Gmail or whatever, and it had the 1.1 version of the specs, and it outlined everything. And I'm like, what? Nobody else has this? Of course, nobody else has this because it's not documented anywhere.
Well, there was a website for UFS at one point.
Yeah.
It was like UFS.com or something like that. It was pretty easy.
Yeah.
And it showed you everything you wanted to know about UFS. Most of you probably didn't really need to know as a consumer, but
Exactly.
So the way I really dialed in my knowledge of the dimensions is I have a set of the original UFS Solomon frames.
Oh, that's perfect.
And so I just measured everything I could about them.
Yeah.
I figure they sort of, that was one of the first that were made, probably just exactly to spec. So it's a good basis to start with.
What is the width of that Solomon frame?
I have to get it out and measure it. I think it's 39 millimeters.
Yeah, and that is the problem. So the spec was 41, and that's exactly. So it was at least less than 41, and my frames are 41, and I'm like, so it is what it is.
Well, because they wanted to have some room for it to fit in there easily.
Exactly, and they never assumed that people would be using them as a reference, But
probably.
Clearly, that's what it is, like a game of telephone, where you're like, exactly. What's the spec? It's 41. Okay, I'll make a frame that's 41. What's the spec? I don't know, 42 or 39. Oh, does it fit in the spec? Yeah, it fits in. Okay, cool. What's the spec? Oh, shoot. Anyway, what were you going to say, Ben?
Well, I was going to ask Cletus, are you a Meditoyo or a Starrett guy?
What?
For your measuring tools.
Oh, what do I have here? I've got a Pittsburgh.
Whatever works.
if I had the money to spend, I'm a Star It guy.
Oh yeah, I'm a huge fan of what they've got, but it's like same thing. I got a third or fourth hand Mitutoyo Oda One mic, and I use it never. It just sits in my toolbox at work. I pull it out every now and then to blow the machinist minds, and they're like, "Wait, you're a welder. Why do you have that?"
Yeah.
All right, so before we get into any news or videos or anything else, when are these medium frames going to be available? Like, when can we get them?
So, I got the tooling in yesterday. I brought in my jig fixtures yesterday. They have to, they clean the tooling, inspect it, make sure everything's torqued down. They're going to make me, a test sample to make sure the tooling runs on the machine here the way it's supposed to, dial in the settings. And then we can do a production run. So it kind of varies. I mean, I'm sort of saying like really early 2020, maybe in January. In order to make the natural color and then other colors, which are based off of the natural, we just add colorant. There's a 3 to 4 week lead time on ordering that material. And I haven't ordered it yet because I don't know how many I want to make.
Of course.
So that pushes that back to like Christmas time, and the plant's really good. I mean, they'll make things up until like December 23rd, but I don't want to ask people to be there then to make them for me.
No, you're a good man, Cletus.
So it's like probably it'll be January. I may be, they have black material in hand, so I may be able to make the black ones and get those out before the end of the year. But I just kind of have to see, and like, I don't know, is it fair if someone orders a black pair and I can send them out? Other people have to wait for their natural. If it's winter time most places, so I don't know.
Right.
Maybe January is okay. And then there's always a couple of things like I gotta I have axle hardware on the way. I got to make sure that gets in.
Right.
If there's any complications with the tooling or something, and they had to fix something that was unexpected, that takes extra time. So. I learned from the last time I was getting really frustrated. Like, I'm supposed to have these 2 months ago. People have pre-ordered them. We're still going on 3 months.
Sure.
I'm not as much stressed out about it this time. It takes what it takes, and the idea is to make something that's good.
Yeah.
I'm really confident in saying, if you buy this, it's going to function 100%. And if there's any problem, I have no problem to give you another set, because there's always some manufacturing problems. But
of course,
I'd hate to rush it and have a whole batch that just something was wrong, you know what I mean? So
yeah,
probably January, like mid-January, looks pretty good. And I've been telling people, maybe a bit sooner, maybe a bit later.
That sounds like a good one. I mean, I don't think anybody has any expectations that they're going to be under the Christmas tree. You know what I mean? And December is this crazy month to begin with, where there's just snow in a lot of places, and it's all the holidays.
You can't skate.
No, I mean, it's like, great, I got these. Yeah, exactly. What am I going to do with this now? Everything is a winter wonderland or whatever. I think January would be cool. I think, no rush. I mean, I think everybody is going to support it no matter what. Are you going to do pre-orders soon, or is it you're going to wait until they come in?
I'll do pre-orders pretty soon.
Cool.
We'll see. Possibly when people hear this podcast, I might have pre-orders available.
Nice.
We'll see.
That's awesome.
So I think last time I had 44 pre-orders, and that was a huge help just to make the first batch and get it out there. So very many thanks to everybody that did that. And I'm probably going to have something for those people that had pre-ordered the first one. Maybe like a little extra discount or something. So I'm going to get in touch with everybody, see if they're interested. And then just many thanks to everybody just around the world that, enjoy the first one and got to the point where I'm able to make a second version for people that, maybe they've tried it and it's like, oh, it's a little too long. I want something shorter. And just, tell companies what you want to see. People said, oh, it's too tall. Maybe the groove is this or that. And so I really tried to listen to that. And come out with something that people, say they want. Now, it's not necessarily the same as people say, like, oh, yeah, you should bring back the fatties. Everyone will buy them.
Yeah.
It's like, how do you judge? But I think the feedback's been good and the interest is good. And it's cool that people are getting really hyped about it. And it's just like, I hope, it always worries me. Like I want to be able to deliver. I mean, I'm still worried that the first version isn't going to work that well. Like, and it's been working fine. So, hope people, can just, hold on, be excited for it still, and maintain their excitement for maybe a few more months if that's what it takes to get them all out there.
I think you won't have a problem selling them. I think, again, like you said, this community is incredible. I have spent a lot of the day talking with Rob Harrington, who is the guy over at Conjure. We've had Rob on a couple of times, and they released pre-orders for 2 new wheels today. We actually talked about Conjure in the last show, how they were making this cosmic frame or cosmic wheel, which is that shaved down 59. That's now a 57. So there's a new version of that, which is black with same graphic, different colorways. I think it has a green hub, and there's a new shred pool wheel, which is really
so
cool.
good.
So it is. It's pretty pink shred pool, with an awesome graphic. You got to check it out. Is that Conjure? Is it Conjure?
Oh, yeah, I checked it out earlier.
ConjureBrand.com, I think that's what it is. Conjure. What's the website?
Yeah, ConjureBrand.
ConjureBrand.com.
Yeah, that's ConjureBrand.com. Anyway, we were talking, and Rob and I are good friends, and he was like, I am blown away by the response. And it's incredible just to see that people love supporting small companies. You know what I mean? Like, I think that there have been big pre-orders for skates, and I think there have been big pre-orders for Kaiser stuff, and there's been big pre-orders for Rossi's stuff, I guess. But I think there's something that you are tapping into, that the guys at Conjure are tapping into, that Kyle was tapping into with the Solo frames, where it's like, we're building things because we want to skate them. And there's not a lot of industries that do that. This is, I don't see Kyle trying to get rich out of this. I don't see Rob trying to get rich out of this. And clearly we've talked to you for an hour about not getting rich out of this. Like, we are in this to do it for the community, because we have ideas in our head that we need to get out, and we want to make sure that other people can experience them. And the community is down to do it. Like, even if the wheels aren't amazing quality, even if the frames aren't amazing quality, like, they want to support you. It's great that they are, right? I mean, and that's what gets people coming back.
Yeah.
But I think they want to see you succeed, because they know how hard it is and how hard you're working and how much you're investing in it. Same with the guys at Conjure. Like, they know how hard it is to create a wheel company and stick with it. A lot of wheel companies come up, come down, come up, come down. Like, they get the money together for that first order. They sell through that first order, and they're like, cool, I'm done. Like, we're a wheel company. We did it. Like, this is their 4th run, Ben? Is that right? It is their 4th run, right?
They had 2 of the original flats. They had the mini flats. They had the shred pools. They had the Sean Smiths.
And then, the Cosmics.
Shred pool tool and the Cosmics. So that's 7 wheels?
7 wheels, yeah. So it's a wheel company now, It's not just this little side company that makes wax and sometimes a wheel. Like, they're a legit.
But they did make wax.
I know, but that's what I mean. Like, they started off as just the side company because they wanted to be involved in the industry. Yeah. And, Cletus, I don't know what your involvement with the industry was before the frames, but I would imagine it wasn't anything where it is now.
Only real industry kind of involvement is I would do a lot of, photography and different, tours would come through our town, and I'd get to hang out with them and shoot them while they're skating and stuff. And some of that, made its way around a little bit, but that was kind of about it. Yeah.
Sure. And this is, you've got skills and you've got passion and you know how to build stuff. Like,
and some expendable income.
And a little bit of expendable. I mean, and that's what's different now, right? Like, when we started back in the 90s, we didn't have any money. Like, nobody had any money that was putting money into it. And if they were putting money into it, they were there to make money.
Yeah.
And that changed everything. Anyway.
So my favorite part about this whole Conjure launch,
yes,
is the sticker pack that you get with the shred pool wheels. The shitting unicorn is amazing.
Yeah.
They
I hope that they're able to get me one of those, because I placed I guess you'd call it an off book order, and I'm really hoping that I get that specific sticker, because that's going right on my welding hood.
they definitely let him do. They let him do what
They
he
let him
wants.
do him.
Yeah. I don't even know. It must be nice to be Mr. Shred.
He is a nice guy.
He is a nice
He's
guy.
good at skating too.
He's a pretty good skater too. Rollerblading is fun. So, cool. So, what do we want to talk about? There's a few things on the list. Is there anything that piques your interest, Cletus? New stuff? Why don't we talk about, since you were talking about photography, let's talk about this Arlo thing.
Yeah. Okay.
So, you know, had some photography in your history. I was never a photographer. I always had a camera with me for back in the days for Sequence magazine, right? And I would shoot pictures for that. But that was very like, that was me. Like it wasn't a good camera. You know, it was crap. But whatever. It did the job. One of our skaters, Tyler Shields, back in the day, who grew up in Florida and was always on the ASA tour. You know, I knew Tyler not fairly well, but I definitely knew Tyler. He did a lot of the filming for Juice, actually. He shot a lot of the footage of Richard down in Southern California. This was like right when he started leaving skating and becoming more of a photographer, media person. He actually snuck me in. True story. He snuck me into. So I guess I did know Tyler pretty well. He snuck me into Knott's Berry Farm. You know Knott's Berry Farm, right, Cletus? I'm sure you do. Yeah. So he snuck me in. He was doing shows there, like how Fabiola does shows in Cedar Point, and Jared and what's her name? That does shows. Not
Coco.
Fab. Coco, yes, thank you. They do shows at amusement parks. He was doing a show. Tyler was doing a half pipe show at Knott's Berry Farm, and he snuck me in to see the show. And we went in like this weird back door, awesome. Like where there was a security guard who was kind of paying attention, and he was like, "Hey, just turn this way, don't make eye contact, and hold up this badge that isn't really a badge, and they won't know the difference." Like, it was so sketchy. But I went back there, and I was hanging out a little bit with the other athletes who were back there. I think it was a skateboard and a BMX, and he was like the only rollerblader at the time or whatever. Anyway, long story short, Tyler is this amazing photographer now, and he spent a lot of his youth in Texas, skating at Eisenberg's, and, you know, was a good friend of Arlo. And he and Arlo got to hook up while Arlo was in LA, and did a photo shoot with Arlo being the model. And so Tyler typically does, like, how would you characterize his work? I mean, it's
polarizing.
Yeah.
Yes, it's very like what you would find in a magazine.
Antagonistic might be a better way to put it.
Sure, it's controversial. It's fashion, but it's also like society. Like it's he's got some interesting ideas, and the way that he captures it, like he's obviously got skills with photography. He used those skills to shoot some photos of Arlo.
And I think he does the photography for American Horror Story, right?
Does he?
I believe that's true, yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah. He does a lot of good stuff.
He does. He's really talented. He, did the famous Kathy Griffin photo, Kathy Griffith photo of her cutting off Trump's head that got her taken off of everything.
Off of the D list?
Yeah, basically. So there's a few photos. I don't know. I'm sure there's more photos that he took, but really cool pictures of Arlo, like total fashion style photos. But there's one where he's lounging with his rollerblades on.
In a gimp suit.
Yeah, in this leather outfit, holding on. Is that a mannequin? Do you think that's a mannequin, or is that a real woman?
I think that's a real woman. That'd be my guess.
Real.
It looks pretty real to be a mannequin.
She-
I don't even know. Well, yeah, I'm sure he's pretty real, but I think the legs. I think the legs are real as well. It's an interesting look. I mean, especially since we haven't really seen Arlo. We saw Arlo. Remember when he came out, and Kato came out and took photos of him, or not Kato? Kazu came out and took photos of him, and he had a photo of him. That was the last time we really saw a photo of Arlo, I think. Yeah, I don't.
It was cool to see him out there skating too. All those guys.
So yeah, how was he skating?
Good.
I've seen
Like,
him.
really-
He
like,
was.
in my mind. I don't really remember Arlo doing like fish brains,
Yeah.
and he just laced them all. It's great. It's like wow, So obviously he's still been skating, and it's cool.
He was in that blading football league, or whatever the silly thing is called, edit last year, was it? Or a year before, maybe? And yeah, he was clearly skating a lot leading up to that. And I'm assuming if he's still good enough to skate that course, I mean, he's probably still been skating.
Yeah, I don't think Arlo really lost much at all, clearly. But he's athletic. Like, he does CrossFit all the time. Like, he's in good shape. Like, if I was still in good shape, I'd probably still be able to do handrails, but maybe not.
Yeah, it makes a huge difference. So,
Yeah, all that core strength, right?
Yeah. I worry about hurting myself and blowing out a knee.
Yep.
Yes, I do too. Well, yeah, it was cool. It was cool to see the photo shoot. I'll put a link in the show notes so that you can check out the photos if you haven't already. Just a really, I mean, I don't know. It's crazy to see what people do outside of skating, right? So we know them as skaters, but then they have these real careers and these real lives, and it's like, Tyler's an amazing photographer, so it's cool to see him kind of giving back.
Yeah.
I still would love to see Tyler Shields do another parallel alley-oop fish brain.
He was a really good skater.
He was really good. Like, there was a picture. It might have been in like box or something like that, but he was doing that trick in some Dave Kalash flats,
Sure,
or something of in that same time frame. But I remember the green frame specifically, doing that like in the Badlands in Florida, like at the Badlands skate park.
Mm-hmm.
And like, it always stuck with me. Like, it pops into my head a few times a year. It's just like, man, that was a great picture.
Yeah.
But that's one guy. If there's one person that I would say I'd love to see him come back to skating, it'd be Tyler. I don't really know why. Like, he wasn't a huge, like, what's the word? He wasn't a huge personality in skating or anything like that, but he was just really, really good. And he was one of those dudes that really commanded respect on a mini ramp and on a vert ramp and stuff like that. So that was someone that I still would love to see come back.
Yeah, his ramp skating was incredible. He would skate half pipe like it was a mini ramp. That's what I remember most of him. Like, all of the tricks that you would normally see people do on a mini ramp, he would just kind of lace on a 10-foot half pipe, and it was like, all right, I guess that's the way it is.
That's a thing.
Yeah, seriously. Speaking of outside of skating, did you guys see this Kenan article?
Yeah, this is cool.
Yeah, so if you don't know Kenan, he does a YouTube channel called Blading on the Brain. We've talked about him a couple of times in the past. He had a traumatic brain injury. He was skating and wasn't using his helmet, stuck pretty hard on a grind and fell back and hit his head and got knocked out for a bit, and took a long time to recover from that injury. And since then has been a huge proponent of skating with helmets and being aware of traumatic brain injuries and how to deal with recovery from that. He does the YouTube channel, and a lot of the channel is about just him skating and just hanging out and He talks a little bit about the TBI stuff, but for the most part, it's just, I'm a skater and all that. There was one video that he talked about going to Korea, I think. And I was like, what are you doing in Korea? Like, I didn't know Kenan outside of skating. He's just a rollerblader. But apparently, he is one of the higher up, like, dudes over at the Oakland Unified School District.
Oh,
And
wow.
he does computer science management. I don't really know the 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 job title or anything, but apparently that's what he was doing in Korea is learning about teaching computer science, managing school district computer science programs and stuff like that. Super interesting. Like, I had no idea that he was into that sort of thing.
Yeah, I mean, I was just reading this article. He's a civil engineer. That is, I have a lot of respect for civil engineers. It's very detail-oriented engineering. And I don't know if how other engineers think of mechanical engineering, but civil engineering is one of those that it's like, to me, it's like super important. Um, those are really, they're not, it's like, this is how you design things for the functionality of cities and basically societies, how they function. So it's really cool. It's like a lot of detail oriented and probably like it could relate stressful work, but really rewarding. And it's cool that he can take that knowledge and then get more people into this into tech field and into science. I think it's really cool.
He was at Blading Cup. I don't know if you had a chance to meet him or if he stopped by the booth, but I saw some pictures, and he did release a video about Blading Cup and then going to Great Wolf Lodge, I think, on the way back, trying to do the family trip to Blading Cup, which, as any of us fellow parents out there could relate, it's hard to take time away from the kids, and then when you take the kids with you, you got to treat things a little differently. Yeah, he seems like a really good dude. I've never met him in person. I hope to get out to the Bay Area again sometime. I don't know when that will happen, but there's just I feel like if and when I do get back out there, there won't be enough time. Like, there's so many people that I want to say hi to. There's so many spots that I want to check out that I used to skate growing up. Like, it's just it's going to be a very long trip that's never going to be long enough.
Yeah. Or you feel exhausted and you haven't even started yet.
Absolutely, like mentally exhausted. I remember going back to Alameda where I grew up, and that was before I started skating. So it was probably like 2015 or whatever. I think it was when I was still at my old company, and well, actually my current company before I went to the company that I just left. And I went out there for some training or something like that, and I walked around the old city, and it was like, wow, like, this place has changed. And I know that the Bay Area has changed so much since then, with the rise of the Apple and the Facebook and the Google and stuff like that. Like, when we were there, that was just getting started. So it's a very different experience now. But I would love to just skate around with some big wheels, skate around my old city, and just kind of like see the old houses that I used to, because I spent so much time there. See the old houses, and then go out and just meet the people like who live there now, like old skaters that I grew up skating with, or skaters that live out there now, and just get to know what their impression is of the place that I grew up skating. You know what I mean? Like, where did you start skating, Cletus? Wasn't it Albuquerque?
Yeah.
I thought that's what it was. Have you been back out there?
Oh yeah, I go back. I haven't been there. Well, I haven't been there for a while this year because I've been so busy. I did go in just end of September, beginning of October, right before my birthday. Hung out with some friends and did a little bit of skating, but I was kind of staying low key because I'll go home and I'll just spend so much time with friends and not enough with my family. So this time was kind of more oriented, hanging out with my family. But I usually go back a couple times a year. and they were, for a few years they had Duke City Ditch Comp going. So I'd go back for that every May. This year they didn't have it, and I think maybe next year they're going to try to have more of like a street comp there instead of a ditch comp. So yeah, I go back every now and then, and it's always fun. We have a skate park called Los Altos, which was built just when I was senior year in high school, maybe when it was finished. And that was a time where we were just skating a lot all the time. So, just going back to that skate park is just, the ledge that you just grew up skating. It feels so great to go back and skate it.
Totally.
It's perfect, which I can't find anywhere else. Just like a perfect down ledge with round coping. Like there's perfect down ledges here at skate park. None of them have round coping. And then, going back to like some of the street spots that are there that used to skate, I'm just like, I don't, these are too big for me to skate now.
Yeah.
I'm just going to hurt myself.
I mean, I remember going to that when I went and met you for the first time at that Southern California trip and going to these old spots. And I was like, dude, like,
yeah,
seriously? Like, did people really skate this? Like, this is crazy. Like, looking at it now, and most of the stuff in Southern California is all capped and you couldn't really skate it anyway. But that's definitely like looking through it with old eyes, the things that you grew up skating. I mean, Ben going back to his handrail. I mean,
oh, that was a bad day.
So, but I guess in traveling, I think on the last podcast you said you made it out to Denver.
Yes.
And you got to skate Luke's ramp.
Yes.
Which was awesome. Luke's really cool. I'm glad you got to go there and meet him.
He is a really amazing dude. Yeah. He and the crew out there is really great. Have you been out to Denver?
Yeah, so I mean, we'd go up for Mile High Battle, and I go to the Colorado road trip. I didn't go this year.
Got it.
For almost the last like 10 years or something, and yeah, Denver, Colorado crew are awesome.
It seems like the sort of community that you would be really into. Like, it's a very close-knit, like, family style. We all know each other. We skate with the same people, but everyone's welcome, that sort of vibe. Like, that's what I really liked.
Yeah, it's really welcoming there.
Have you skated the ramp?
I haven't skated it,
okay.
so it's disappointing because I knew, when he was building it and they were talking about building, I'm like, I got to go skate it before the first winter hits the ramp.
Yes.
And I didn't make it, and now it's been through, I think, 2 winters.
Yeah, it's in the middle of this one.
Yeah, but and then that video, I think, did Sayer Danforth make the video? Yeah, so they showed that at Blading Cup. That was really cool too. And yeah, man. I mean, I knew it cost a lot to make a ramp. When I was living in North Carolina, I refurbished a ramp that I got from like my girlfriend's sister who lived down the street that skateboarded, and she didn't use it anymore. And just I moved the whole thing, but I already had like the major structure and just had to get the masonite. That was expensive. So yeah. It's it's a hefty sum, but it's like a dream to have that kind of ramp in your yard.
It is.
It's worth it. Totally worth it.
It is. It's an amazing ramp to skate, but I suck at mini ramp. I know you're a little better than I am, but neither of. Yeah. It's not. It's
like growing up skating. I mean, we had this stupid attitude of like, you got to skate street. That's you got to skate street.
Oh, of course.
So I never developed my ramp skills as good as I wish they were now.
Right.
Because it doesn't hurt you as much as skating street.
Correct.
And I'm, not, my knees aren't enough to skate street and bash myself around. And so it's like, man, if you have the chance, learn everything that you can,
Absolutely.
You can do. I feel like I missed out for myself by not spending more time on ramps.
Yeah, and spending more time jumping on a handrail and sliding down and walking upstairs. Like, I'm really good at walking upstairs on my skates, but that doesn't help me very much right now.
Yeah, we had so few opportunities to skate ramps that when we did, it was just like it was a nonstop. Like, we would drop in as much as we could just to try to experience it. And once I got to San Diego and I was out there when I was in the Coast Guard, I skated that Escondido skate park when it was metal all the time. That was basically the only thing I skated. But it was a lot of fun. Like, I feel like I got pretty good at skating ramp or skating transitions, not necessarily skating mini ramps. But in the last few years, I've learned how to carve a bowl moderately well,
Mm-hmm.
to where I don't feel like an idiot trying to carve around in them. So
I need to.
carving bowls is fun. I enjoy that. I mean, not even going to have to like hit a grind or anything, just to get that feeling where you have a nice line and just kind of carve through it. Feels wonderful.
agreed.
The Venice skate park out here has like a really big swimming pool type bowl, and that one's really fun. And every time I go, I'm like, man, I got to do this more often so I could have more stamina to just keep doing it for a few minutes. But, 30 seconds is like a long run.
Yeah.
Where does he off that?
I need to get out and skate bowls. There are so many bowls in this area that I just don't skate. I don't know why. Everybody asks in my video. They're like, hey, I didn't know there was a bowl back there. Why aren't you skating it? And I'm like, because I can't. Like, what am I going to do? Just fall down. Like, why do you want to watch that? Like, I can barely, do the grinds that I can do. Like, you want to watch me skate a bowl? All right.
Law, I will trade you every skate park in a 40-mile radius for one of those bowls.
Yeah, I know.
I'd give anything to have a bowl around here that I could skate. There's a nice one right across the bridge, but I'm not allowed to go to. We can't talk about this because I'm just going to get angry.
You're going to get all angry. So speaking of skate parks, there is an event. So we're recording this on Friday, November 22nd. There's an event in Charlotte, first week of December, the 6th and the 7th, I think, of December. Called the Queen City Kings Contest. Are you going to be coming out to that, Cletus?
I'm not.
No.
I'm not gonna make it.
Somebody put it on the list. Did you put it on the? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I will be out there. So
Awesome.
I'm not going to be there on Friday, but my daughter and I, presumably my daughter and I don't know if she's going to come out. She's at that age. You guys probably don't know, but she's at that age where it's like, yeah, I want to hang out with you, Dad, but I would much rather hang out with my friends. And I'm like, all right, that's cool. I'll be here.
Yeah, I figured if it wasn't sure if you knew about it or not, but it's close enough to you to make it there.
No, it absolutely is. We're not sponsored. We weren't asked to sponsor it, so I sponsor every event that I get asked. So if you are having an event, please reach out, fittyfittyframes.com/contact or whatever it is. But definitely, it's only like 2 hours away from me, so it's close enough that I'm going to make it. I think Buck from Red Eye is going to be up there. So we met briefly at What Year Is It? And he mentioned that he was going to be up there. So I'm going to go up and say hey to him. I'm going to say hey to Daniel from Blader Union. He is in Charlotte. And I know that there's a bunch of other skaters in Charlotte that are out there. I am really excited of going out there and seeing a comp. That Oso skate park looks terrifying to me. Everything looks so tall. I will not be skating it. I don't think there's an over 40 event. But I don't even know if I'm going to bring my skates. But I'm definitely going to get out there, unless something happens. If you are going to be in the area, please come out. I think it's like a $5 entry fee just to go in and watch. It supports the skate park, and it's a good cause. If you want to skate, I think it's like $25. So it's not going to break the bank, but it's going to be a really fun event. It looks like they've got a lot of great sponsors. And yeah, I hope that you make it out. If you are listening to this, you got a couple weeks to move your schedule around. If you do come, and if you see me there, please don't be a stranger. I love meeting people. Please come up and say hey. Even if I'm with my daughter, she'll know that it is an okay thing, and there's no strangers in rollerblading.
Yeah.
Cool. Do you go to most of the comps out there, Cletus?
I guess it just kind of depends what my schedule is.
Yeah.
Definitely go to Blade Cup. I did Forecast, which was in Palm Springs.
Mm-hmm.
I think, let's see, there was one in Fontana, but I was out of town, so I wasn't able to go to that one.
Got it.
And then, yeah, the same thing, with Wish. It's usually people ask a good amount ahead of time, then I send something out to sponsor the comp. And usually, I mean, it's just, a set of chassis. That's
sure.
kind of all I've got. So it's our
Sure.
main product, and happy. And so actually, I guess with that is, sponsor comps kind of all over the world, and I guess I could just talk a little bit about kind of development of who's on the team. Sort
Yeah,
of the
please
way
do.
it works, it should be, just sort of a natural thing where people use the product and they enjoy it. You don't necessarily have to buy one. There's someone on the team that said, "Hey, I met this other person that's representing your frame. I really think they're cool. Can I be on the team?" I said, "Well, no, not yet. I'll send you a pair. I'll send you a pair and skate them for a month. And if I want to make sure you like them because I don't want people to be on my team if they don't enjoy skating it just to
Of
be on the
course.
team. So,
Of
it's no
course.
fun." And so I actually send a pair out to a contest in Poland, and Kamil Gruba won them, and he's been skating ever since for like a year and a half.
Awesome.
So, I like
cool.
that sort of natural development, and that's one of the reasons that's fun to sponsor a comp is someone gets to win it, and then they get to use it, and they ultimately really really enjoy it. And then sometimes there's been people that win comps that are sponsored by other frame companies,
Hmm.
and so I don't know if they ever get to use them or what they do with them, but hey, maybe it's a few extra bucks they can sell them if they really want to, whatever.
Yeah, I have a very similar mindset. I love, I absolutely agree with the team thing. I always make sure that people actually want to. I think I had this conversation with somebody a couple weeks ago where I was like, "Hey, do you even like the frames? Like, I don't want to. Like, nobody's making money out of this. Like, realize that this isn't like you. At most, you're going to get some free product. If you're getting free product and you don't like it, don't skate it. Like, we're all in this to have fun skating. So, if that is something that you enjoy, then cool. If not, you know, getting sponsored doesn't mean anything if you don't like the products that you're
Right.
skating.
And that's kind of my mindset, and I talk to people that are on the team officially is
Mhm.
like, I don't require you guys to fit a certain look, skate a certain way. It's you don't have to post a certain amount of things every week that you're skating. Like, the whole idea is that you enjoy skating them because you really like them, and represent the team well,
Mhm.
and sort of respectfully. And that's just kind of you know what I require of them, because I don't. I know other people in some other industry skating related stuff where it's like, oh man, I gotta make this post before the end of the day because I have to do one a week, and
Yep.
it's just like it kind of becomes a hassle, and it just takes away from the whole fun and the spirit of it all. And I don't want to impose that on people. If you're on my team and you just don't feel like skating for a month,
Yeah,
that's cool. It's okay. You know what I mean? That's just the way I approach it, at least.
I agree. I think it's refreshing to hear. Um, I think the representing the company thing is important and the vibe of the company. And I think even if you're not skating, the skating that you have out there already speaks volumes, you know? So if you are getting people like the way that we have social media now and the posts get shared all over the place, it's like so long as you have clips, those clips will pop up in these random spots at any given time, you know? Like
Yeah.
having a quota where you have to post one clip a week and one edit a month or whatever, like that is so old. Like that is not. And I know that there are companies that do that. I don't know that there's any companies in blading that do that, but definitely
Yeah.
skateboard companies or BMX companies or the ones that have like performance driven metrics for getting paid or whatever. There is a
Yeah.
motivation and it's a quantity game. I don't. I'm in the same boat. I don't have any expectations of the team aside from you've got to hold your head up high and you've got to be respectful and a nice person when people talk to you.
Yeah.
And if you don't like the frames, cool. Like, it's fine. Like, no big deal. So far as sponsoring comps, I'm in a very similar boat. I will sponsor any comp. Like, I want to support it. If they don't like the frames and they sell them to somebody else, okay. Like, that's fine. Like,
Yeah.
it's getting frames out there. It's getting more people skating. And I like supporting events. Even if I'm not going to spend, like I supported a few of the Blading Cup qualifiers, and just sent out some product. I wasn't going to be able to be there. Like I think I supported the that forecast event or the Fontana event, one of those two. And I was like, I can't be out there. Like I can't fly out to Palm Springs for a weekend.
It was
But
so hot that
oh, I believe it. I mean, are you kidding me? Like that's the craziest hot place in the world. But I wanted to support, and I think that events are what we need. Like every time, it's like when people go to church. You know, I'm not a religious dude, but people go to church and they get recharged for the coming week. You know, and I think that having it on Sunday is like the perfect time because you have Saturday to get your stuff done. And then church going people go to church on Sunday and they're like, all right, like that's what I needed. I have a good outlook on life, good outlook on the future, and I'm going to get through the next week. And it's like, if you get to hang out with bladers, like, again, talking about what year is it, if you get to hang out for a weekend with 500 other bladers and everywhere you look is blading, you're going to come away from that event and be stoked on blading. That's good for blading.
Like a supercharge up.
Absolutely, it is. It is, and it's like that's
Still
what,
buzzing off of that.
totally. Like I still have like not dreams, like I'm not dreaming about it, but or anything, but like I still think about it, and it's like, oh, I remember that. I remember giving one of my coworkers a hug when I got back, and I'm like, wait, I'm not at Woodward anymore. I can't be hugging random coworkers.
Right.
Like, this is you know, it
They
was
just get all stiff and like put their
Yeah,
hands up.
no,
like,
it totally-
HR, I don't know what's going on. I don't know what's going on.
Thankfully, it was a dude, so it wasn't like an HR like violation or. Well, I guess I mean,
I still could've-
whatever. But it was somebody that I knew for many, many years. So
Okay.
it was acceptable, and I hadn't seen him for like 2 years, so it was it's fine. But yeah, you still have that glow, right? You still have that vibe, and whenever you're hanging out with skaters, like that's why events need to be big. That's why you need, and I'm not talking about big event, big stunts or big like courses or anything like that, or big prize money or anything like that. It's like they just need to have people there. We are sponsoring an event this weekend, the Gold Comp, I think it's called, which is in Chattanooga. And I don't know that it's going to be one of the bigger events, but I'm going to send some product down there. And I hope that people will show up and I help promote it. And it's like, hey, this is an excuse to get together with a bunch of bladers. Do it. Like, if you're at all possible to get down there, go get down there and have fun. Like, it's going to be a great event for, even if you don't skate, it's going to be a great event for, the people who do. And yeah, I think I don't know. I'm talking in circles, but I think it's important to support events however you can.
Yeah. And I think especially because it's, that's like a local community thing of the community for blading there.
Mm.
That becomes like a staple every year. They have that there, and it just sort of, recharges people, gets everyone to hang out, and basically builds a community of people you can skate with, and that's one of the funnest things is like going out with a bunch of friends and skating.
Absolutely. Cletus, so where can people find you?
Wishes.com or Wishes on Instagram.
Are those the best ways to keep track for this potential pre-order drop?
Yeah, Instagram will be the best way.
All right.
Have it up there. That's kind of where I announce everything. It's it's a quick, easy way to do it where most people that want to see it will see it.
Yeah.
So
not just in a story, right? You're a story guy. I don't know if I trust you about that. It's hard to keep track.
I'll have them up as a post.
Okay.
So I've been, just social media in general, like I think it was like 2015, I was like, all right, I'm going to try to use social media more often. And then, then having companies like, all right, I kind of need to use it more often because it's a platform to get things out there. And then when Instagram stories came out, I was like, I'm never going to use these. This is, you just post something. Why not? But it's nice. Like I can share things kind of easier. And, you can highlight different things. And I like to do that to highlight different skaters and their projects that are related to Wish as like a team member or someone that we support, but it's not something like that Wish is responsible for. So I kind of like to do that as a way to, they post something and I can repost it as a story to help get the word out if people are looking at the stories.
That's a
think
good
it's
way of looking at it.
Yeah.
So it's not an official Wish posting, but it's a Wish like supported message, right? So it's
Sort of.
not like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's not an announcement, but it's
Yeah.
like, we condone this, we bless this, and we think that this is a good thing that you should see.
Yeah.
I like that. I like that. It's a much better way of looking at it.
Kind of the way I look at it, because otherwise, I mean, I don't make that many posts, and I try not to like make too many posts because I feel like I don't want to invade people's
Sure.
Instagram time or whatever time they're spending on social media.
Sure.
But then, just trying to post something and come up with the thing I want to say in the right way. I spend way too much time doing that already.
Yes, I know the feeling.
Yeah. Oh, I was going to say,
Oh.
but with Instagram, it's cool because I can actually follow a lot of different skaters and see
Mhm.
who's out there riding the frames and enjoying them, and just kind of like watch, I don't know, their creativity or what they like to skate, kind of assess how good they are, and then get in touch with people and ask them like, hey, I think you'd be a good fit for the team. You already really enjoy the frames. Like, what do you think? And that's something that without social media aspect would just be nearly impossible in that manner.
Absolutely. Have you done that before? Like, is that a good way for people to, maybe somebody out there listening is in love with the frames? Like, how would they get your attention?
Yeah, definitely. Message me on Instagram on the Wish account or on the website. I have a contact form, and that works too.
Mhm.
And I usually will try to get back to them relatively soon. I think I have some outstanding people I do need to get back to. It's been a few days just because I've been so busy.
Mhm.
But yeah, it works really good. And we can just, I mean, it's kind of nice because we can just sort of have a conversation and we don't have to like set up a certain time or anything. We can just kind of go back and forth over a few days or a few weeks and talk about different things. So
Awesome.
yeah. And if people have any questions about products or issues with products and stuff, Instagram, Facebook, or through the website, and I try to respond as fast as possible. And you always have some defects.
Sure.
And so there's no official warranty, but
Right.
the thing is, I want to make sure people are out there having fun and can skate. So generally, whatever defect there is, we send a replacement.
Sure. And it's important. Same with my stuff. I mean, if you have a defect, odds are that it's not purposeful, and
Yeah.
odds are that you don't know about it. So do the right thing and let us know about it before blasting on social media that this sucks or something like that. Because honestly, we want to fix it. Like, we want to make products so that you can skate. Like, we're in this to help you skate. If you have a wheel break, a frame break, a bearing seize on you, something like that, like, or if just something doesn't feel right, like, even if you're skating the frames, and I'm assuming this is your policy as well. Like, if you're skating the frames and you're like, hey, you know what, this is not for me. It's like, all right, let's talk about it. Like, at least
Yeah.
I'll figure out a way to make it work. Like, I want to make sure that you're happy with skating the frames, and everybody's different. You can't make the perfect frame for everybody. If you don't like it, then let's talk. And yeah, I always appreciated that about you. I remember there was one story. When was it? Was it 2 years ago at Blading Cup, I think, where somebody had their bag stolen and had just bought a pair of Wish frames. Do you remember this story?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So yeah.
And so that was Dante, and I mean that's the
Was
person in Inland Empire that I skate with.
Oh yeah, I remember. Yeah.
Yeah.
So he had his frame stolen, or his bag stolen, right? And he had just purchased frames earlier that day, and his frames were in the bag and they were stolen. And you heard about it on social, and you were like, that sucks. Come by, I'll get you a new set.
Yeah.
And it's like, you didn't have to do that, but that was like, for me personally, when I was like, this Cletus dude, he's all right. Like, he gets it. You know what I mean? Like, we're in
Then
this.
who got in touch with me right after that and said their bag also got stolen. Shredful.
Of course, Shredful. That guy. I swear to God.
That makes so much sense.
Typical.